Chapter 1463. Mo Chuan's hand moved quickly, and he caught the bead. He couldn't help letting out a surprised "ee" sound. There really is a mechanism, and this mechanism is very intricately made. Ning, how did you find it? Chen Ning smiled and said, "How I found it isn't important. What's important is that this is the real reason the Northern Qi envoy gave me this silver hairpin." She took the small bead from Mo Chuan's hand and said, "Let's take a look now. What is the real gift he wanted to give me?" She carefully looked at it and saw that it was a bead made of fine steel. It was only the size of a mung bean, but it was perfectly round. She looked at it for a while and didn't find anything special about it. She weighed the small bead in her palm and revealed a thoughtful expression. "Mo Chuan, try to use your internal strength to crush it. Be careful, I'm guessing that this steel bead is hollow, and there might be something hidden inside." She placed the small bead in Mo Chuan's hand. "All right." Mo Chuan's two fingers gently used strength, and with a pu sound, the steel bead split open. It was hollow and revealed a small white object inside. Chen Ning used the hairpin to gently pick it up and picked out the white object. It was a small piece of silk that was like a cicada's wing. She spread out the silk. It was about the size of her palm, and there were many small words written on it. There were also some diagrams drawn on it. Mo Chuan also came over to take a look. After looking at it a few times, his expression changed. This is the method to make the snow silk clothing." He blurted out. "Snow silk clothing?" Chen Ning's heart skipped a beat. "Is it the snow silk clothing that my master gave me?" Mo Chuan nodded and took the map from her hand with a serious expression. He carefully looked at it and then said, "This map looks like a map. Strange. Why is there a map? Could it be that the location marked on this map is where the snow silkworms appear?" He had never been to Northern Qi before, so he was confused by this map. Although Chen Ning had a photographic memory, she had never seen a map of Northern Qi before, so she couldn't understand it. Mo Chuan held the map, and the more he looked at it, the more excited he became. He couldn't help revealing a passionate light in his eyes. The snow silk garment is the most precious treasure in the world, and its production method is also a secret. The snow silk is a treasure that is extremely difficult to obtain because no one knows where to find the snow silkworm. Without the snow silk garment cannot be made. Therefore, in the whole world, there's only one snow silk garment that you have. If we can find the snow silkworm according to the map, get the snow silk, and have the production method, we can make the second snow silk garment. We don't even need to make it into a garment. As long as we make small pieces of cloth and sew them on the vital parts, we can greatly reduce the casualties of the soldiers on the battlefield. He was thinking about making West Shu stronger, so when he saw the snow silk clothes, he immediately thought of using it on the battlefield and for the soldiers. Chen Ning looked at his face that was slightly red from excitement and revealed a faint smile. Chapter 1464. The flames in Mo Chuan's heart burned brightly. It was like he could see the West Shu soldiers sweeping through the battlefield, killing their enemies in an awe-inspiring manner. The East Qin and South Yu armies were forced to retreat, West Shu taking back the land they had given to the enemy countries, and the citizens of the enemy countries regained their freedom. They returned to West Shu's embrace, and everyone was crying tears of joy. With the 20 crossbows and the snow silk clothes, this goal was no longer an unreachable dream. As long as he worked hard, he would definitely achieve it. Chen Ning said with a faint smile, "I never thought that the envoy would give me such a special and precious gift. Next time I see him, I really need to properly thank him." "That's right. You said that the silver phoenix hairpin was personally made by Qi Yinyu. Could this blueprint also be personally made by Qi Yinyu? It's even possible that the snow silk clothes I'm wearing were personally made by Qi Yinyu." Mo Chuan looked at the blueprint in his hand and thought about it before saying, "This is very possible. According to what I know, not only is Qi Yinyu good at making weapons, the armor he makes is also better than others. It's just that he is not as famous as the weapons he makes. As for your snow silk clothes, if it was really made by Qi Yinyu, how could it fall into your master's hands? Could it be that your master knows Qi Yinyu? Was your master's snow silk clothes given to him by Qi Yinyu?" He guessed. Ning thought back to the first time Gu Qingze took out the snow silk clothes. His face had a very strange expression. It was like he was a bit unwilling and had a bit of disdain, which she could not understand at that time. Moreover, Gu Qingze seemed to have mentioned Qi Yinyu's name. When he mentioned it, his face clearly revealed a look of disdain as well as a hint of hostility. Thinking of this, she shook her head. My master has indeed mentioned Qi Yinyu, but they shouldn't have a deep friendship. Whenever my master mentioned Qi Yinyu, it was like he looked down on him. His expression was ugly, and his words were unpleasant to hear. One of them is the #1 divine doctor in the world, and the other is the #1 crafting master in the world. They are both #1 in the world, and they specialize in their own fields, so they shouldn't be enemies. I don't understand, but when I see my master, I'll ask him about the origin of this snow silk clothes. Mo Chuan nodded and gave the blueprint to Chen Ning. I see that this blueprint is very complicated. Take a look. If you have the snow silk, can you make this snow silk clothes? Chen Ning looked at it a few times and felt like they were separated by mountains. The method of making the snow silk clothes was completely different from the method of making weapons. It mainly talked about how to weave the snow silk into the snow silk cloth, but there were many technical terms that made her confused. In her memory palace, there had never been any knowledge about weaving, and she had never read any books about weaving. I don't understand it. I only know that there's a basic weaving method called twin weaving. It uses 2 needles in parallel, intersecting and weaving. The thread follows yin and yang, one vertical and one horizontal, but I've only heard of it. I've never seen it before. AI, Mo Chuan, the things I know are too little. She gave an ashamed sigh, regretting that she didn't read more books about weaving in the modern era. Otherwise, she wouldn't be looking at blueprints like they were from the heavens. Chapter 1465. What twin weaving technique you're talking about? I've never heard of it before. It doesn't matter if we don't understand the blueprint. I'll immediately gather the best embroidery maids in the palace and have them teach you the method of weaving. With how smart you are, you'll learn it very quickly. Mo Chuan prepared to call someone in, but Chen Ning stopped him. There's no need to call the embroidery maids. I'm guessing that the method of weaving this snow silk cloth is not that simple. Even the best embroidery maids wouldn't be able to understand it, so I'll ask my master. Mo Chuan, are you worried that my master will reveal this secret? She looked at Mo Chuan with sparkling eyes. She had 100% trust in Gu Qingze in her heart. Gu Qingze even gave her the precious snow silk clothes without blinking. So how could he care about a trivial blueprint? Mo Chuan said without any hesitation. All right, if there's anyone in this world that can understand this blueprint, I believe it would be the divine Dr. Gu. He greatly admired Gu Qingze's machine-making level, especially when he saw the extremely complicated blueprints of the 20 repeating crossbows. It made him prostrate himself in admiration. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile. I'm indebted to your praise. I'll thank you in place of my master. Humph, you really don't have a conscience. This quickly, your master is even closer to you than me? Mo Chuan pretended to be angry as he said. Chen Ning's smile disappeared. Her eyes stared at him without blinking, but she did not say a word. What do you want to say, Un? Mo Chuan stared at her. Mo Chuan, what Chu Xiao Yang stole from the secret compartment in the royal study today, was it really the 20 crossbow blueprint? Mo Chuan couldn't help holding his breath as he continued to stare at her. He saw that her eyes were like autumn waters, bright, and he couldn't help giving a sigh. I really can't hide anything from your eyes. He took out a scroll from his chest and placed it in her hands. This is the 20 crossbow blueprint. What Chu Xiao Yang stole was the 5 crossbow blueprint I bought from Northern Qi. Chen Ning opened the scroll and found that it really was Gu Qingze's personal drawing. There wasn't a single piece missing. She looked up and revealed a faint smile. You really are crafty, actually hiding the 2 blueprints together, putting the 5 crossbow blueprint in a brocade box and casually placing this one on the side. That Chu Xiao Yang quickly opened the secret compartment, so he would definitely think that the blueprint in the brocade box was the most important, but he would ignore the 20 crossbow blueprint on the side. She shook her head and looked right into his eyes. I'm not suspecting, rather I'm certain. Mo Chuan, you are doing this to test him and lure him in. You can hide it from other people, but you can't hide it from me. Mo Chuan tightly pursed his lips and no longer said anything. Chapter 1466. His conscience was clear. Mo Chuan's lips curled, and he revealed a bitter smile. Even she said that she had a clear conscience. Could it be that what she had done was really so unbearable? Did he make his mother and his most beloved girl doubt his intentions? He did not explain himself and just softly said, I have a clear conscience. All right, if you say it like this, then I can be assured. Chen Ning did not continue asking. She knew that Mo Chuan had his own sense of propriety and he had his own ideas. As long as she silently supported him, he would not disappoint her. Ninger, there are some things that I don't want to hide from you, but it's better for you not to know. One day, you'll understand everything, but right now, I can't tell you yet. Mo Chuan's hand was placed on her shoulder as he spoke with a serious expression. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile. I know, I understand, and I won't be angry because of this. You are a man and the ruler of a country. The world in your heart is much larger than the world in my heart. You have the world in your heart, but my world only has you. As long as you are safe and happy, my world is complete. Mo Chuan's heart felt warm, and he couldn't help tightly hugging her. He whispered into her ear, if you keep saying these sweet words, I won't be able to hold myself back. Aren't you afraid? Chen Ning giggled. She placed her head against his chest and said in a soft voice, I'm not afraid, but now is not the time. I want to see my master and ask him about this map. Also, we can't understand this map, but perhaps my master will be able to understand it. Mo Chuan stroked her hair and let go of her with a smile. All right, you can go. I'll have Zhue Feng escort you. Be careful on the road. He knew that now was not the time to be intimate with her. The table in the royal study was already filled with documents that needed to be taken care of. He could not delay the matters of the country because of a moment of love. In his heart, she was important, but the matters of the citizens were also important. Chen Ning shook her head and said, Did you forget that Zhue Feng was heavily injured? Let him peacefully recover from his injuries. There's no need for him to escort you. Just send another hidden guard. Mo Chuan thought about it after being reminded by her. He said with a nod, All right, I'll have Xiao Si escort you. Chen Ning said with a smile, You're really muddled from work. Xiao Si has received your orders to search the entire city for Chu Xiaoyang. Did you even forget this? I'm only going to Dr. Zhang's palace. It's not far, so I don't need Xiao Si. Could it be that other than Zhue Feng and Xiao Si, you don't trust anyone else? Mo Chuan thought about it, and it was just like she said. Other than Zhue Feng and Xiao Si, he wouldn't feel assured sending anyone else to protect her. He suddenly thought of a person and blurted out, It would be good if Xiao Bai was still here. He wasn't used to suddenly leaving at this time, so he couldn't accept it. When Chu Xiao Bai's name came out, the two of them fell silent, and the smiles on their faces disappeared. Chapter 1467. Mo Chuan said in a low voice, No, this matter isn't your fault, it's mine. If it wasn't for my selfishness and sending him far away, perhaps you would have already chosen him and not me. It was me who wronged him. The one he should blame is me. Ning, don't blame yourself. I believe that Xiao Bai is an open-minded person. The one that he finds hard to accept is not you or me, but rather Chu Xiaoyang. In his heart, he has always treated Chu Xiaoyang as his closest relative, but he never thought that the most important relative in his heart would lie to him. This is the real reason he doesn't want to face it. Chen Ning's eyes filled with tears. When she was about to speak, Mo Chuan reached out and placed a finger on her lips. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to cry. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have mentioned Xiao Bai. If you keep crying for Chu Xiao Bai, aren't you afraid I'll be jealous? She took a breath and forced back the tears in her eyes. Her lips curled up and she forced out a smile. I believe that Xiao Bai wants you to be happy, so you have to smile often. If you cry all day, your face will soon be covered in wrinkles. When Xiao Bai comes back one day and sees you, he won't be able to recognize you. Hey, Where did you come from, old woman? Chen Ning couldn't help laughing at Mo Chuan. I won't talk to you anymore. I have to leave now. I'll be back before it gets dark. Be careful on the way. I'll arrange for the secret guards to protect you, Mo Chuan said. Chen Ning nodded. She carefully placed the thin silk in her chest and then opened her suitcase, preparing to change into a set of normal clothes. Who would have thought that when she opened the suitcase, she would knit her brows? What's wrong? Mo Chuan noticed that something was wrong with her expression. Cat Mint, Chen Ning said word for word. This suitcase was placed in the corner, and it was filled with normal clothes. It was for her to wear when she left the palace. But there was a strong catnip smell coming from the suitcase. After smelling it once, she would never forget it. I never thought that the princess wouldn't give up. Last time you didn't manage to harm me with the catnip, but this time you're using the same trick. Chen Ning gave a cold laugh and looked through the suitcase. She found that each set of clothes had catnip powder sprinkled on them. She walked over to the other suitcases and opened them one by one. When each suitcase was opened, the smell of catnip wafted out. It looked like Zhao Rong Junju hated her to the bone. No matter what she said, she wouldn't let her go. Catnip? Mo Chuan picked up a set of clothes and placed it in front of his nose to sniff it. Sure enough, there was a cool and refreshing smell that filled his nose. It was completely different from Chen Ning's sweet fragrance. His expression changed. Such a vicious girl. Her first plan didn't work, so she used a second plan. I shouldn't have let Zhue Feng let her go last time. This time, no matter what, I won't let her off. She used a vicious scheme to harm you, and these clothes are the best evidence. Also, it was about time to catch the spy she had planted in Guan Osprey Palace. She was becoming more and more daring, more and more savage. When the time comes, we will have both witnesses and material evidence. If I punish her, even Imperial Mother and Duke Ning will not be able to say anything. Chapter 1468. Only this time, the Zhaorong princess did not hold back and ordered the spy to put catnip on all the clothes. No matter what Chen Ning wore, she would become the target of all the cats. Mo Chuan was filled with rage and prepared to call someone in, but Chen Ning shook her head. Mo Chuan, you don't need to interfere, just let her do what she wants. It's just some catnip powder. I naturally have a way to deal with it. She could harm me the first time, but she didn't give up, so she tried again. Could it be that she can harm me this time? She clapped her hands and called Xiao Ru over, having her bring in some catnip leaves. Catnip? Young miss, that bad princess wants to use catnip to harm you again. When Xiao Ru entered the room, she smelled the scent of catnip. Seeing the open suitcases, her face changed color. It's just a small trick. It's not worth mentioning. Quickly bring the catnip leaves and follow the method I told you last time. Put the catnip powder on all the clothes in the suitcases. Yes, young miss. That bad princess is really bad, completely bad. She only made a fool of herself yesterday. It really was too easy for her. Xiao Ru walked out while speaking in a hateful voice. Mo Chuan knit his brows and said in a puzzled voice, Ninger, now that we have evidence and people, the evidence is conclusive. Zhao Rong harmed the Empress, so she cannot escape her crime. Why don't you let me punish her? Could it be that you want her to continue harming you? Chen Ning looked at him and said, Witnesses and evidence? Even if we capture the spy she placed in the palace, will that be enough to testify against Zhao Rong Junju? Also, even if we do manage to catch the culprit and accuse Zhao Rong Junju, we can only accuse her of sprinkling some catnip powder on my clothes. This powder isn't poisonous. At that time, if she refuses to admit it, what can we do? If we make a big deal out of this, the Empress Dowager and Duke Ning will make an appearance, and the result will be left unsettled. Zhao Rong Junju dares to be so unscrupulous because she knows that we can't catch her. Even if we catch the person who placed the catnip powder, we can't do anything to her. Mo Chuan hatefully said, Are we just going to let her act this way? Of course not. Chen Ning curled her lips into a smile and revealed a sly look in her eyes. Seeing her expression, Mo Chuan knew that she was ready to bite again. You little girl, Have you already thought of a way to deal with her, Hun? His anger unknowingly disappeared, and he even began to look forward to it. That's right. Mo Chuan, leave this matter to me. If she doesn't offend me, I won't offend her. If she offends me, I won't let her off easily. She giggled as she spoke, but her face showed that she didn't care. Chuan knew that with her intelligence, dealing with the princess would not be a problem. He didn't ask much and just nodded. Ning chose a set of normal clothes and waited for Xiaoru to come in. She used the peppermint powder to get rid of the catnip smell and then put it on. Xiaoru, I'll have to trouble you today. Sprinkle peppermint powder on all the clothes in this suitcase, but don't let anyone know, understand? This servant understands. Young miss, you can be assured. This servant will definitely get rid of this smell, not leaving a single trace. Xiaoru forcefully nodded and promised. Chapter 1469. Mo Chuan went to the royal study, and she sat in a small blue silk sedan. She didn't need the royal guards to escort her, leaving the royal palace in a very low-key manner. She was very smart, knowing that the more people she moved, the more attention she would attract. With this kind of small sedan walking on the street, no one could guess that the person in the sedan had an illustrious status and was the current empress. Although Chu Xiaobai had left, Gu Qingze was still living in Dr. Zhang's palace. Since he didn't say he was leaving, Dr. Zhang naturally wanted it. The #1 divine doctor in the world was living in his palace, which made him feel proud. He wanted him to stay like this, and it would be best if he never left. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys moonlight first. He was personally given a vacation by the emperor and didn't need to go to the doctor yard every day. Moreover, he could ask for medical advice from the #1 divine doctor. This already made all the doctors in the yard red with envy, wishing they could be in a different place from him. Gu Qingze was not a person that was easy to get along with. If he wanted his medical advice, he had to wait until he was in a good mood. But Dr. Zhang was very smart. Gu Qingze had been living in his palace for a few days, and he had already roughly understood Gu Qingze's likes and dislikes. For example, Gu Qingze liked peace and was extremely lazy. He liked to be served everywhere, and he was too lazy to even open his mouth when it was cooked. So Dr. Zhang had specially picked a few clever and smart servants to serve him in the backyard. Even their appearances were quite handsome, because Gu Qingze said that he didn't like ugly people. Seeing ugly people would ruin his appetite. Other than these servants, no one else was allowed to enter the backyard to avoid disturbing Gu Qingze's peace. He also had the kitchen make different dishes every day. Gu Qingze only needed to open his mouth to eat delicious food and drink good tea. This kind of treatment was even better than serving the emperor. Gu Qingze was finally embarrassed. So on this day, after he had a good meal of the dishes Dr. Zhang had people prepare, he ate the fresh fruits that were sent after the meal while casually speaking to the servant serving him. Go find the old man. I'm in a good mood today, so quickly ask him if he has any questions. I won't wait for him. The servant had already received Dr. Zhang's orders, so he quickly ran to the front yard to report to Dr. Zhang when he heard this. Dr. Zhang was filled with joy when he heard this. He didn't even put on his shoes as he ran to the backyard barefooted, arriving in front of Gu Qingze while gasping for breath. Divine Dr. Gu, I've heard that you're in a good mood today. Hey, I hope that seeing this old man's old face won't ruin your mood, he said with a smile. Gu Qingze rolled his eyes. Cut the crap. If you have any questions, hurry up and ask. Yes. Dr. Zhang finally believed the young servant's words. He had long accumulated a stomach full of medical problems, and at this time, like pouring beans out of a bamboo tube, he asked all of them in one go. Ask them one by one, Gu Qingze said impatiently. Yes. Dr. Zhang suppressed his excitement and slowly asked the first difficult medical question. Chapter 1470. Are there any other questions? If there aren't, I'm going to sleep. Gu Qingze rolled his eyes at Dr. Zhang again. Yes. Dr. Zhang quickly replied before asking a second question. Gu Qingze's mood wasn't bad, so he patiently answered one question after another. Dr. Zhang scratched his head as he listened, feeling overjoyed. There was no trace of the white beard fluttering in the air that he usually had in the doctor yard. He was a very knowledgeable person. Although he wasn't very smart, as long as he learned a bit, he would firmly remember it. The questions Guqingze answered were the obstacles he had encountered in his medical studies over the years. After overcoming these obstacles, his medical skills had greatly improved. He had always adhered to the principle of never too old to learn. Guqingze only wanted to give him a few pointers to repay him for his kindness in this period of time, but seeing Dr. Zhang's white hair and serious face when studying, as well as being respectful to him, Guqingze couldn't help feeling a bit of admiration for him. A person who was still diligently studying at this age was worthy of respect. So he did not hide anything and could be said to be teaching everything he knew. Of the two of them, one was focused on teaching and the other was focused on learning. No one noticed when Chen Ning appeared. Chen Ning silently entered the room. Seeing one teaching and one studying, her heart filled with emotions. She didn't make a sound and just silently stood there, listening to them. Although she had taken Guqingze as her master, there had been a lot of things happening in this period of time. Guqingze didn't have time to teach her any medical skills, so she couldn't even reach the beginner level of medical skills. Dr. Zhang's questions were all the problems he had encountered over the years, and she couldn't understand them, but that didn't hinder her memory. Especially Guqingze's answers. She remembered them all in her heart. She knew that she would encounter similar problems in the future. Time silently passed, and the afterglow of the setting sun unknowingly filled the room. Suddenly, a gulyalu sound rang out, which interrupted the three people who were completely immersed in studying. Dr. Zhang rubbed his stomach in embarrassment and began to laugh. "I'm truly sorry. This old man only cared about the divine doctor's advice and forgot about the time. Divine doctor, you must be hungry. This old man will immediately send someone to prepare some food." He finally remembered that he had been bothering Guqingze. Not only had they not eaten breakfast, they had even forgotten to eat lunch. It was no wonder his stomach was growling from hunger. Guqingze was indeed a little hungry. He nodded and looked up to find Chen Ning standing quietly in the corner of the door. "Little girl Chen, why are you here? When did you come, and why didn't you say anything?" "I came to find Master for something. Seeing how serious you are, I didn't want to disturb you, so I came to listen to Master's teachings." Chen Ning replied with a faint smile as she slowly walked forward. Dr. Zhang quickly bowed down. "Greetings to the Empress." "Dr. Zhang, there's no need to be so polite." Chen Ning raised her hand and stopped him from bowing. "The Empress hasn't eaten dinner yet, right? If you don't mind the poor quality of this minister's home's food, can you stay and eat with the ancient divine doctor?" Dr. Zhang stood up and respectfully asked. Chapter 1471. Dr. Zhang knew that she had something important to discuss with Guqingze, so he left. He told everyone in the yard to stay far away and not eavesdrop on them. Chen Ning picked up the teapot and poured a cup of tea for Guqingze. "Master has been talking for an entire afternoon. Are you thirsty? Please have some tea." Although the tea was cold, it was still fragrant. Guqingze took it and drank it all in one gulp. Then he looked at Chen Ning and said, "You've never come without a reason. Say it. What did you come to see me for this time? Who do you want me to see in the palace, son?" Chen Ning gave a laugh. "Master, you're becoming smarter and smarter. I did come to see Master for something, but it's not to cure a disease." "Oh, then what is it?" When Guqingze heard that it wasn't to cure a disease, his eyes revealed a glow of interest. Chen Ning did not reply. She walked in front of the window and opened it, looking out. She saw that the yard was completely silent, and there was not a single person in sight. She couldn't help secretly praising Dr. Zhang's eyesight, sending away all the servants. But although she couldn't see anyone, she knew that Mo Chuan had sent secret guards to protect her in a corner. She raised her voice and said word for word to the empty window, "I have something very important to say to my master, and I don't want anyone to hear it. If anyone hears it, the emperor and I will be very, very unhappy." She believed that after the secret guards heard it, they would run far away. This was because there was no secret guard that would dare to make the emperor and empress unhappy. Guqingze did not say anything, But the interest in his eyes became even stronger. This was because he knew that since Chun Ning said this, it meant that the matter she wanted to tell him was very, very confidential. What kind of confidential matter was it? Chun Ning closed the window and walked beside Gu Qingze. She took out the thin as cicada's wing cloth and placed it in front of Gu Qingze. "Master, take a look at this." Gu Qingze took it and glanced at it. His eyebrows twitched. He blurted out, "This is Qi Yinyu's writing. Where did you get it from?" "Qi Yinyu. He also came to West Chu." Chun Ning thought that it was as she expected. This really was Qi Yinyu's. She shook her head and said, "I don't know who Qi Yinyu is. This is the thing the Northern Qi envoy gave me as a gift. It was hidden in a silver phoenix hairpin. This is it." She took the phoenix hairpin from her hair and gave it to Gu Qingze. Gu Qingze's eyes lit up. He held it in his hand and carefully examined it. He clicked his tongue in praise. "As expected, it's incomparably exquisite. I didn't think that Qi Yinyu would actually know how to make this kind of women's jewelry. Useless." After he finished speaking, he threw the silver hairpin back to Chun Ning with a look of disdain on his face once again. Chun Ning revealed a faint smile and put the silver hairpin back in her hair. She had long noticed that every time Qi Yinyu was mentioned, Gu Qingze's expression would turn ugly. The forging technique of this silver hairpin had clearly amazed Gu Qingze, but he would only praise it once before he began to criticize it. This is the method to make the snow silk robe. Shin girl, this is Qi Yinyu's secret. What is your relationship with that guy, surnamed Qi? Chapter 1472. Chun Ning knit her brows. "Master, you're hurting me." Her wrist was in pain from Gu Qingze's grip. She never thought that Gu Qingze, who looked so thin and weak, would have such a strong grip. Speak. Were you sent by that fellow surnamed Qi?" Not only did Gu Qingze not let go, he used even more strength. His eyes were sharp and his expression was fierce. He stared at Chun Ning like she had killed his father. Chun Ning muttered in her heart. It seemed like Gu Qingze and Qi Yinyu were not good friends, but rather enemies. Otherwise, why would he look like he wanted to eat her alive? "Master, you've misunderstood." "Master, you misunderstand. I don't know Qi Yinyu at all. The first time I heard of his name, it was you who told me. How could I have anything to do with him? As I told you earlier, this was a parting gift from the Northern Qi emissary. I didn't think that the silver hairpin would have another mechanism, and that it would contain such a blueprint," she explained calmly. The fierce light in Gu Qingze's eyes slowly disappeared. He let go of her wrist and nodded. "It's my fault I wronged you." He found that he had used too much strength and left 2 black marks on her white as jade wrist. He couldn't help feeling a bit guilty as he took out a medicine box and threw it to her. "Put some ointment on it and it'll immediately go away." Chun Ning applied the ointment while muttering, "Such a rough master," making a move without saying a word. "It seems like I'll have to suffer in the future." Gu Qingze stared at her and said, "What are you mumbling about?" "I'm saying that I found a rare master in the heavens, and everyone is envious of me." Chun Ning loudly said, "Humph, stop trying to flatter me." Gu Qingze stared at her again. "Master, why do you suddenly become so fierce when you mention that Qi Yinyu? You don't know how scary you looked just now. You were like a man-eating beast." Chun Ning asked with a smile. Gu Qingze gave a snort. "It's none of your business. If you mention Qi Yinyu again, your master will throw you out." Chun Ning stuck out her tongue. Seeing Gu Qingze's livid face, she knew that he was in a bad mood. She didn't dare ask anymore. If she kept asking, he might not even tell her about the snow silk clothing. She cleverly changed the topic. "Master, you're this smart. You must be able to understand how to make this snow silk clothing, right?" Sure enough, flattery would not work. Her words immediately made Gu Qingze's mood improve greatly. His originally stiff face revealed a trace of pride. "Of course your master can understand." Chun Ning's heart filled with joy. Her eyes turned, and she pointed at the map on the silk and said, "Master, do you know where this place is? Look here, there's a crooked worm. What's so strange about that? Your disciple is stupid. Please give me some pointers." Gu Qingze said without any hesitation, "You really are stupid. You can't even see this? This is the map. This crooked insect is the cold silkworm that lives on the snowy peaks. The so-called snow silk clothing is mainly made from the silk spat out by the cold silkworm. This map shows where the cold silkworm appears, and as long as you follow the directions on the map, you can find the cold silkworm. Chapter 1473. All right, you little girl, you've learned to trick your master. You don't understand the map? Who are you trying to trick? Gu Qingze angrily threw the thin silk into Chun Ning's arms and turned around, ignoring her. Chun Ning giggled. Master, how could I dare trick you? I really don't understand it. I've never been to Northern Qi, so how would I know what place is on this map? So this is the snowy peak. It's all thanks to your guidance. Gu Qingze still turned around and gave a snort. Now that you have the method to make the snow silk clothing, your master's snow silk clothing is not important anymore. Get back to me, he angrily said. Chun Ning couldn't help smiling as she said, Master, your words are unreasonable. Unreasonable? How is your master unreasonable? Gu Qingze couldn't help turning his body and looking at her. Chun Ning smiled and said, Didn't you give the snow silk clothing to the Zhao Rong princess? My snow silk clothing was exchanged with the recipe from the Zhao Rong princess. If master is unwilling to give something away, you can find the Zhao Rong princess to bring it back. Gu Qingze was choked by her until he couldn't say anything. Although he knew she was being unreasonable, he couldn't refute her. This was because the snow silk clothing was not something he had personally given to her. All right, you haven't learned anything else, but you've learned to contradict your master. Gu Qingze angrily said, Master, don't be angry. If you want the snow silk clothing, that's easy. Don't we have a method to make it? As long as I follow the map to the snowy peak and find the frost silkworm, I'll personally make 8 or 10 snow silk clothing to show my respect to you. What do you say? She giggled as she spoke. Make 8 or 10. Is it that easy? Do you think you can go up the snowy peak of Northern Qi just because you want to? With your mediocre martial arts, you won't even be able to touch the edge of the snowy peak before you freeze to death. Also, even if you can find the frost silkworm, can you make the snow silk clothing? Even if you understand the method to make it, do you know how to weave the snow silk clothing? Gu Qingze's questions came one after another. Chun Ning was dumbfounded and couldn't answer. However, she quickly smiled and said, Master, I indeed don't understand, but Master, you do. I don't know how to weave, but Master can teach me. Otherwise, wouldn't I have taken you as my master for nothing? Gu Qingze almost laughed from being angered by her. He turned around and stared at her. He could not think that there would be such a shameless girl in this world. She was not the empress of a country. You mean if I don't teach you how to weave this snow silkworm cloth, you won't take me as your master? Is that right? Gu Qingze's eyebrows slanted and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Chun Ning stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, This is what master said. I didn't say anything. I only know that a teacher for a day is a teacher for a lifetime. Unless master doesn't want me anymore and kicks me out of the sect, you will be my Chun Ning's master for a lifetime. I didn't say anything. I only know that a teacher for a day is a teacher for life. Unless master doesn't want me anymore and kicks me out, you will be my master for life. He raised his chin. His tone and expression were very proud. He snorted and said, Little girl, you have a conscience. As long as you help me win the competition, I will teach you whatever you want to learn. This snow silkworm cloth is nothing. I have even more powerful things to teach you. He raised his chin. His tone and expression were very arrogant. Chapter 1474. When Gu Qingze mentioned it, she remembered. That's right, Gu Qingze did mention this matter to her. He wanted her to properly study medicine and help him win the competition, but he did not reveal a single word about the details of the competition. Master, don't worry, I will definitely study medicine well. No matter what competition it is, I will not lose. I will not lose Master's face, she firmly said. Gu Qingze revealed a rare smile on his face. He turned around and nodded at her. With your intelligence, it won't be hard for you to win. It's just that you don't have much time. You only have 1 year and you have a lot of things to learn. I want you to come with me to the Miracle Physician Valley because that place is far away from the secular world. There, You can focus on your studies without any distractions, and there won't be anything to distract you. If it was in the capital city, look at what you've learned from me these past few days." Chen Ning blushed with shame. She finally understood why Gu Qingze wanted to bring her to the Miracle Physician Valley and not stay in the capital city. He wanted her to clear her mind so she could focus on her studies. He wasn't wrong. If she stayed in the capital city, she would have to deal with all sorts of things every day. How could she calm her heart and study medicine well? Master's teachings are correct. It was my fault. Too many things have happened these past few days. In 3 days, I'll go with you to the Miracle Physician Valley," she said with determination. "Your emperor husband has agreed." Gu Qingze glanced at her. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and nodded. Gu Qingze was a bit surprised. He rubbed his chin and did not ask for the reason. As long as she was willing to go with him to the Miracle Physician Valley, he did not care about anything else. Chen Ning's eyes turned and fell onto a large red invitation card on the table. She let out an "ee" sound. "Master, did someone invite you to be a guest?" Gu Qingze nodded. He pointed his chin at the invitation card and said, "Why don't you guess who sent this invitation?" Chen Ning smiled and said, "Isn't Master making things difficult for me? This is like looking for a needle in a haystack. How could I guess?" Gu Qingze softly said, "You're so smart. What can't you guess?" Chen Ning giggled. "Master, you shocked everyone at the palace banquet yesterday. Who doesn't respect Master's miraculous medical skills? There are a lot of people trying to curry favor with you. You should be tired from receiving so many invitations, right? You're asking me who sent this invitation. Shouldn't you at least give me a hint?" "All right, then I'll give you a hint." Gu Qingze's eyes flashed. He looked at the tightly shut window on the opposite side, but didn't say anything. Chen Ning followed his gaze and revealed a thoughtful expression. She suddenly clapped her hands and said with a smile, "Ah, I guessed it. This invitation must have been sent by Duke Ning's palace, right?" Gu Qingze looked at her with a surprised expression. "How did you guess?" He wanted to make things difficult for her, but he never thought that she would actually guess it. Chen Ning smiled and said, "Isn't there a large locust tree in the yard outside the window?" Chen Ning smiled and said, "Isn't there a large locust tree in the courtyard outside the window?" Gu Qingze laughed involuntarily and said, "Master really didn't misjudge you. You're smart and quick-witted. You're indeed a good seedling to study medicine." He then said, "Since you're this smart, why don't you guess why Duke Ning invited me into the palace?" Chapter 1475. He must have used the fake prescription that I gave to his daughter and suffered a lot. That's why he wants to ask Master to come over and treat him. Not bad, you're smart. Gu Qingze clapped his hands together and praised. Then why don't you make another guess? Will Master be willing to cure him? He looked at her with a smile that wasn't a smile. Chen Ning pondered for a moment and said, "This is hard to guess. Master's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Only I can't guess it. However, I think Master will invite him to the palace. As for curing him or not, that will depend on Master's mood." Gu Qingze couldn't help revealing a look of surprise. "Girl, your guess is quite accurate. That's right. Master has already agreed. I will go to Duke Ning's palace in a bit and see this Sir Duke." Chen Ning revealed a faint smile without saying a word. There was something she wanted to ask, but she didn't say it. She had already found out that Gu Qingze had come to the capital city this time. Although it was for her, he had his own goals. For example, his attitude towards Duke Ning was very strange. Otherwise, with his personality, it was better to avoid trouble. For example, if Duke Ning sent an invitation, he wouldn't even give it a second glance. "Master, are you going to Duke Ning's palace?" Hearing Gu Qingze's words, Chen Ning's heart skipped a beat, and she thought of something. "That's right. Do you want to come with me?" Chen Ning shook her head and said, "It's already late. I promised Mo Chuan that I would return to the palace before it gets dark. I have a small matter that I want Master to help me with." "What matter?" Her eyes revealed a crafty look as she said in a low voice, "I have something. Can Master think of a way to make that princess, Zhao Rong, drink it?" Gu Qingze immediately understood after hearing this. "You little girl, what bad idea did you come up with this time?" Chen Ning said with a faint smile. "What? Only Master can tease her, but I can't give her a small gift? Tell me, what kind of small gift is it? If it's interesting, Master will help you with it. Guqingzi revealed an excited expression. He was not a person who wanted to stir up trouble, but for some reason, once he heard that she wanted to tease the Princess Zhaorong, he was filled with interest. Chen Ning smiled and said, "Does Master remember that I gave the princess a gift at yesterday's banquet?" Guqingzi nodded and said, "That was a bottle of honey perfume. Only it was fragrant. It wasn't that precious." "Master, do you know that if this honey perfume is mixed with something else, it will produce a strange fragrance? This fragrance is what bees like the most." Chen Ning told Guqingzi about how Chen Baiyan wanted to use honey perfume to attract bees to her. Guqingzi asked with curiosity, "Chen Baiyan?" Chen said, "Chen, Gugu, Chen Guling pill." Chen Ning took out the bag of powder from her chest and placed it in Guqingzi's hands. Guqingzi opened it and sniffed it. He nodded and said, "I understand now. This is the pollen of the Semipulum lotus. It's nothing special on its own, only having a light and refreshing smell. However, it's the favorite of the bees. If you take the pollen of the Semipulum lotus, coupled with your honey fragrance, Zhao Chun, of Avida the princess will be." Chapter 1476. Master, are you going to help me or not? Guqingzi raised his hand and scattered the half-lotus powder on the ground. He gave a snort and said, "This kind of unpresentable thing, your master really doesn't want to make a move." Chen Ning stared at the powder on the ground. She bit her lips and stomped her foot. "Master, what are you in such a rush for? Your master won't make a move. Since your master has to make a move, naturally you have to use your master's things. You have to use first-class things." Guqingzi's lips curled into a faint smile. Chen Ning was surprised and happy. She pursed her lips into a smile and said, "So master you. You have first-class things on you. So naturally you don't care about this unpresentable half-lotus powder. Master, what good things do you have? Can you show this disciple's eyes?" Guqingzi said, "All right, your master will teach you a lesson first." He took out a small bottle from the box on the armrest of his chair. Shaking it, he said, "This is a bottle of insect-luring powder. The powder inside has the taste that many insects like, including bees, butterflies, ants, earthworms, spiders, geckos, cockroaches, toads." He said the names of several insects in one breath. Chen Ning shivered when she heard this, and her body went numb. Guqingzi then said, "Humph, that cheap princess wants to harm my disciple, so your master will let her have a taste of the powder in this bottle and give her a taste of her own medicine. I guarantee that the girl who harmed you won't be able to live and won't be able to die, even if she wants to." Chen Ning giggled. "Disciple thanks master." Sure enough, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. Master's move is much more powerful than your disciple's original plan. She thought that she never would have thought that her master would be this black-bellied. When it came to scheming, he was 10 times more ruthless than her. Zhaorong Princess was going to suffer this time. You could go back to the palace first. Your master will go to the Duke Ning Palace now, and there will be good news coming to your ears soon. Don't forget, you still have 2 days. If you don't have anything to do in these 2 days, don't leave the palace. Stay in the palace and love your emperor husband." Guqingzi said this without any expression. He turned his wheelchair and left without looking back. Chen Ning looked at Guqingzi's back in a daze, and her heart filled with warmth. She could deeply feel the care and love this master had for her. "Divine Dr. Gu, you're leaving?" This old man has already ordered them to prepare a sumptuous dinner and was about to invite the empress to eat with you. Dr. Zhang's voice came from outside the door. He knew that Chen Ning and Guqingzi had something important to say, so he didn't dare disturb them. Now that he saw the divine Dr. Gu about to leave, he quickly came forward in concern. During this period of dinner, he had the kitchen put in a lot of effort. Today, Guqingzi had helped him answer the difficult questions that had been weighing on his heart for many years. He was suddenly enlightened and could be said to be extremely grateful towards Guqingzi. He thought to himself that there was nothing he could do to repay Guqingzi. He could only take advantage of the few days that Gu Qingze was staying in his fu to properly entertain him and repay him. My disciple and I have things to do. To Zhang not to eat, not to eat. Not, Gu Qingze said. Gu, and I Ning to Ning, and there's already a carriage sent by Duke Ning public house waiting at the entrance. Chapter 1477. Duke Ning Residence. Hearing that Gu Qingze was about to arrive, Duke Ning was so excited that he couldn't sit still in his chair. He paced around the room, rubbing his hands and looking out of the hall from time to time, giving orders. Quickly go and take a look. Why isn't Divine Dr. Gu here yet? Did something happen on the way here? The servants agreed and hurriedly ran out of the door, muttering in their hearts, I've never seen Duke so anxious. In just a short while, he has already sent 7 or 8 groups of people to inquire about the news. What kind of person is this Divine Dr. Gu? What kind of background does he have that Duke Ning values him so much? Divine Dr. Gu is here. Divine Dr. Gu is here. The servants guarding the gate finally saw the magnificent carriage that had just turned the corner. It was the carriage that Duke Ning had sent to greet Gu Qingze. The large red lantern hanging in front of the carriage clearly had the 4 large words Duke Ning Fu written on it. The servants quickly ran into the residence to report the news to Duke Ning. Duke Ning was surprised and happy, but his heart was in a mess. He asked, Did you really see it clearly? Is Divine Dr. Gu really in the carriage? That carriage wouldn't be empty, right? He was still worried about his personal gains and losses. The servants were stunned and couldn't answer. They only saw the carriage in their residence from afar and didn't notice if there was anyone in the carriage. Useless things, all of you are useless. Quickly go and find out. Duke Ning was so angry that he raised his leg and kicked one of the servants, causing him to tumble and crawl on the ground. After a while, the servant hurriedly rushed in. Duke Ning, this servant saw it clearly. Divine Dr. Gu is in the carriage. Hearing this, Duke Ning immediately jumped up from his chair and walked out in a few steps. Quickly, everyone follow me to welcome Divine Dr. Gu. If anyone is negligent, I won't forgive him. He brought a group of servants to the door. At this time, Gu Qingze's carriage hadn't reached the residence yet. The commoners in the distance saw this scene and were amazed. What kind of important person was sitting in the carriage? Duke Ning actually came out to welcome him personally. Could it be that the person in the carriage was the emperor? After a while, the carriage slowly stopped. A few servants moved Gu Qingze and his chair down from the carriage. The chair was extremely heavy. The servants' faces and necks were red from holding it in. Gu Qingze sat in the chair and saw Duke Ning waiting outside. His butt didn't even leave the chair. He just bowed slightly and nodded to Duke Ning. Thank you for waiting, Duke Ning, he said indifferently. His carefree manner made everyone suck in a breath of cold air. Who was this young man? How could he be so arrogant and rude in front of Duke Ning? When he saw Duke Ning, not only did he not bow, but his butt seemed to be glued to the chair, not moving at all. Looking at his coarse hem clothes, he was obviously a commoner and not the current emperor. Even the servants of Duke Ning's public house were secretly sulking. This ancient divine doctor really thought that he was a deity from the heavens. He actually dared to be so rude to the Duke. One had to know that even the prime minister, who held the highest position in the imperial court, had to be respectful and careful in front of the Duke, not daring to show the slightest bit of disrespect. Chapter 1478. Not only was Duke Ning not angry, but his face was full of smiles. His originally cold and expressionless face was smiling like a flower. What are you saying, Divine Dr. Gu? This Duke did not wait for long. Moreover, as long as I can see Divine Dr. Gu, this Duke will be honored to wait for 3 days and 3 nights. As soon as his humble words came out, everyone's jaws dropped in shock. Did they hear it wrong? What did Duke Ning say? Even in front of the emperor, Duke Ning was not so polite and humble. Could it be that this young man's background was greater than the emperor's? Everyone stared unblinkingly at Gu Qingze, wanting to see if he had 3 heads or 6 arms. Who knew that no matter how they looked, He was just an ordinary young man. His appearance was not shocking, and there was nothing special about him. Who knew that what happened next not only made their jaws drop to the ground, but even their eyeballs popped out. Divine Dr. Gu's presence brings light to this Duke's house. Divine Dr. Gu, this Duke has already prepared good wine and delicacies. We're just waiting for you to enter the house. Come, 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 let this Duke push you into the house. Duke Ning walked behind Gu Qingze and personally pushed the wheelchair towards the gate of the house. Gu Qingze didn't refuse. He just sat in the chair and let Duke Ning express his goodwill to him. Duke Ning had a smile on his face, as if it was an honor to help Gu Qingze push the chair. With this, not only were the servants of Duke Ning's house dumbfounded, but even the common people who were watching became clay sculptures. Even when the gate of Duke Ning's house closed with a bang, and the situation inside the house could no longer be seen, everyone was still in a daze for a long time. The fine wine and delicacies prepared by Duke Ning were in no way inferior to the palace banquet held at the Anqing Palace Hall yesterday. In fact, they were even better. However, in such a large banquet, Gu Qingze was the only guest. He sat alone in the seat of honor, which made his status even more noble. Duke Ning sat next to him and personally helped him with the dishes and wine. This made the servants at the side look at each other in dismay, not knowing what to do. The High Duke had actually snatched their jobs. What should they do? Come, Divine Dr. Gu. This dish is called Return to the Phoenix's Nest. It was made by the most famous restaurant in the capital. In order to welcome the Divine Dr. Gu, this Duke has specially invited their chef to the house to make this famous dish for the Divine Dr. Gu. This is a delicacy that can't be found anywhere else. You must try it. Duke Ning enthusiastically introduced the dishes on the table to Gu Qingze. For this banquet, he had put in a lot of effort. Even the 4 dishes that Chun Ning left in the ancient tower had been brought over by him. However, he could never have imagined that these 4 dishes that everyone praised were actually the creations of the person he hated to the bone. Gu Qingze's expression was indifferent. He didn't even look at the small piece of phoenix nest burrito that Duke Ning handed over, causing Duke Ning to feel slightly embarrassed. It doesn't matter. Divine Doctor, please try this dish. This dish is called Phoenix's Egg. Look, this orange, red, and light yellow. Doesn't it look like a young phoenix curled up in an egg? Not only is this dish beautiful, the taste is even better. Chapter 1479. The phoenix egg emitted a strange fragrance. Gu Qingze wasn't a glutton, but when he smelled this fragrance, he suddenly felt hungry. His gaze couldn't help but land on the phoenix egg. He discovered that it was just as Duke Ning said. The strange and unique shape really did look like a young phoenix, and the taste. He picked up a small piece of the phoenix egg and sent it into his mouth. After chewing a few times, he felt a fresh fragrance filling his mouth. It was truly a delicacy he had never eaten in his life. As soon as he tasted it, he began to eat continuously with his chopsticks, eating happily. What does Divine Physician Gu think about the taste of this phoenix egg? Seeing Gu Qingze happily eating, Duke Ning's smile deepened. He had a proud expression, as if he was the one who made this phoenix egg. Not bad. Gu Qingze only said 2 words before he continued to gorge himself on his food. He even rolled his eyes at Duke Ning, looking like he disliked Duke Ning for talking to him and disturbing his mood of eating. Duke Ning smiled and personally scooped a bowl of sweet soup and sent it in front of Gu Qingze. This soup is called Snow-Seeking Plum Blossom. Not only does it look good, it also sounds good. How can this soup sound good? Gu Qingze was startled. He put down his chopsticks and sized up the sweet soup in front of him. In the bowl of soup that was as clear as water, there were snow-white osmanthus petals floating. A dozen or so dark red cherries were floating inside. The red and white were clear and bright. Just looking at this color would make one's eyes light up. He scooped up a cherry and sent it into his mouth. When he bit down lightly, he heard a crisp sound. The sweetness of the cherry, the clarity of the soup, and the coolness of the rock candy were all in his mouth. No wonder it's called Snow-Seeking Plum Blossom. This name is good, and this soup is also good. Gu Qingzi couldn't help but praise. Divine Physician Gu, if you think it's delicious, then eat more, eat more. Duke Ning was already smiling like a flower, extremely proud of himself. Gu Qingzi picked up the rolled-up phoenix nest biscuit. Originally, he wasn't interested in this biscuit, but after tasting the phoenix egg and snow-seeking plum blossom, he began to feel that this biscuit was definitely not as ordinary as it looked. As expected, when he bit down, a strange expression appeared on his face, causing Duke Ning's heart to beat rapidly. Divine Physician Gu, this phoenix nest does not taste good? He asked with some trepidation. At the same time, he cursed the chef who made this dish in his heart. If Divine Physician Gu was not satisfied with this phoenix nest, he would skin the chef alive. Gu Qingzi didn't answer. He closed his eyes and slowly chewed. He had never eaten food with such a special taste in his life. It could be said to be one of a kind, one of a kind. Every time he chewed, there would be a different taste in his mouth. There was a fragrance in the crispness, the sweetness of the wine, and the fragrance of the sauce and the cucumber. It was really clear, but not greasy. There was sweetness in the crispness and sweetness in the sweetness. Such a wonderful taste made him reluctant to swallow it for a moment. Great taste. Among all the dishes on the table, this phoenix nest tastes the best. Gu Qingzi swallowed the food in his mouth. With his extremely lazy temperament, he actually couldn't wait for someone to wrap a roll for him. He imitated Duke Ning's actions just now, quickly wrapping another small roll and sending it into his mouth. Before he could even swallow it, he had already wrapped another roll with his extremely fast hands. Chapter 1480. Gu Qingzi wiped his mouth and leaned back in his chair in satisfaction. He picked up the bowl of treading on snow plums and slowly tasted it. The food made by the chef that Duke Ning invited is really delicious. I wasn't paying attention and actually forgot to leave a few pieces of phoenix skin for Duke Ning. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Although he said he was sorry, there was no trace of embarrassment on his face at all. The servants at the side saw this and silently ridiculed him in their hearts. Where did Duke Ning invite this country bumpkin from? When he ate, it was as if he was the reincarnation of a hungry ghost. He hadn't eaten in several lifetimes. The return to the phoenix's nest that everyone coveted was completely eaten by him. He didn't even leave a single piece of chicken skin for Duke Ning. Duke Ning's face didn't show any anger at all. The more he smiled, the happier he was. It was as if he was happier that the return to the phoenix's nest fell into Gu Qingzi's stomach than him eating it. A mere phoenix's nest is nothing. As long as Divine Dr. Gu likes it, I will give the chef who made this dish to Divine Dr. Gu. Whenever Divine Dr. Gu wants to eat it, just tell him to make it, he said very generously. Gu Qingzi shook his head and refused. I'm just a country bumpkin. I can't afford to raise such a noble chef. To be able to receive Duke Ning's hospitality and eat such delicious food once is enough. I can't afford too many blessings. The banquet that Duke Ning prepared could be said to be extremely sumptuous. However, he only ate 2 dishes and drank a bowl of soup. He wasn't the least bit interested in the other dishes. He couldn't say why, but when he ate the 2 dishes and the soup, he actually thought of his strange little disciple. These dishes with special tastes and ingenious thoughts were similar to his little disciples. She would definitely like the taste of these dishes. He changed his mind and said, speaking of which, I still have to stay in the capital city for 2 to 3 days. It's good to be able to enjoy 2 to 3 days of good food. When I return to Miracle Physician Valley, I won't be able to eat such delicious food. How could Duke Ning not understand what he meant? He immediately replied with a smile. That's very easy. When Divine Dr. Gu returns, I will let this chef go with you. Gu Qingzi nodded and said casually, thank you for your hospitality. I have eaten and drank to my heart's content. I will take my leave now. After he finished, he shook his chair and walked out of the hall. Duke Ning was instantly dumbfounded. As he watched Gu Qingzi walk further and further away, he almost vomited blood. What did this kid mean? Now that he's full, he's going to leave? But he didn't even have the chance to say it. Divine Dr. Gu. Divine Dr. Gu, please wait. When Duke Ning saw that Gu Qing's chair had already left the entrance of the hall, he couldn't care less about his status and hurriedly chased after him. He smiled and blocked Gu Qing's path. Qingze, Duke said, didn't you invite me to drink and attend the banquet? I've already drunk the wine and eaten the dishes, so it's time for me to take my leave. Gu Qingze raised his eyebrows and looked at Duke Ning, pretending to be confused. Chapter 1481. Treasure? What kind of treasure is it? Why don't you take it out and take a look? Gu Qingze leaned back in his chair without much interest. About this treasure is very precious. It's inconvenient for me to take it out and show it to others. Please follow me to the secret room to take a look. I guarantee that after you see this treasure, you won't regret it. Duke Ning said with a face full of smiles. Oh, there's such a treasure in the world? Gu Qingze muttered to himself and finally nodded his head. All right, then I'll follow Duke to take a look. Duke Ning was overjoyed and said, Divine Doctor, this way please. He led Gu Qingze to the back, passed through the hall, and arrived at the side hall. After entering the hall, he sent everyone out and closed the door tightly. When Gu Qingze saw the mysterious expression on his face, his expression didn't change. He sat in his chair and quietly observed the situation. Duke Ning walked to a door at the back of the hall, but he didn't push the door. Instead, he pushed the wall at the side. With a soft squeak, the wall actually slowly opened to two sides, revealing a secret door. Inside the door, there was a glow of candlelight. Divine Dr. Gu, please enter. Other than me, you're the first guest to enter this secret room. Duke Ning extended his hand and led the way. Gu Qingze was secretly vigilant, but he wasn't afraid. He shook the chair and slowly slid into the secret room. As soon as he entered the secret room, the secret door behind him started to close. He heard the sound, but he didn't even turn back to look. This secret room was very spacious. The four walls of the room were lit with eternal lamps, illuminating the whole secret room like it was daytime. However, the four walls were bleak like a square box, and this box was empty. Duke, where's the treasure you want me to see? Why don't I see anything? Don't tell me that the treasure that Duke is talking about is you. Gu Qingze's gaze swept across the surroundings, and it let out a cold laugh. Duke Ning said with a smile, Divine Doctor, Gu must be joking. You'll be able to see such a treasure soon. He clapped his palms together, and then the sound of a pipa rang out. The sound was clear and melodious, like water hitting a stone. It was very pleasant to listen to. Along with the music of the pipa, the veil in the corner of the secret chamber slowly rose, as if a light breeze had blown past. Then, a slim figure dressed in red with a veil over her face flew out from behind the veil. Her movements were graceful, and she held the pipa in her right hand, playing and dancing at the same time. Her red dress was like a thin veil, perfectly outlining her beautiful and exquisite figure. It was like a mist or an illusion, dazzling the eyes of the onlookers. Amidst the sound of the pipa and the dance, the girl in red suddenly turned her head around. The veil covering her face fell to the ground, and she smiled at Gu Qingze. Her eyes sparkled, and her radiant eyes shone. Gu Qingze immediately recognized that this red-clothed young woman who was holding a pipa and dancing gracefully was none other than Zhao Rong Junju. He sat in the chair and watched Zhao Rong Junju play the pipa and dance in front of him. She was extremely graceful, and his expression was calm and without the slightest change. Zhao Rong Junju danced close to him several times, and the red veil deliberately brushed past his face, bringing waves of fragrance to his face. However, Gu Qingze's expression remained indifferent. Chapter 1482. Sir High Duke, is this the rare treasure you were talking about? But in my opinion, this pipa and dance are just SOSO. They are not treasures at all. Gu Qingze suddenly spoke. Once he spoke, he did not give High Duke Ning and Princess Zhao Rong any face. Princess Zhao Rong, who was dancing halfway, suddenly stiffened. She staggered, and the pipa's melody became messed up. It became very unpleasant to listen to. She could not help but glare at Gu Qingze. She gritted her teeth and hated this uncultured blockhead. As a princess, she had put down her status and learned from those dancers. She danced and played the pipa to please him. Yet, he did not give her any face. He had gone too far. If it were not for her father talking her out of her mouth, she would not have come out to embarrass herself. Now, she was being ridiculed. She could not help but feel ashamed and angry. Her right hand went to her waist, and she wanted to take out a whip to hit him. Zhao Rong, don't be presumptuous. Hai Duke Ning saw Princess Zhao Rong's intention. He looked at her sternly and shouted. Princess Zhao Rong's face turned red. She said hatefully, Father, did you not hear? This country bumpkin is humiliating your daughter. If you dare to speak rudely again, I will not let you off lightly. Father feels that Divine Dr. Gu is right. Your dance is really ugly. What kind of thing are you playing the pipa? Father has hired a master for you in vain. Duke Ning reprimanded with a stern face. Princess Zhao Rong saw that Hai Duke Ning was really angry. Her arrogance subsided and she pouted. Dr. Gu, please forgive me. Zhao Rong has been spoiled by me since she was young. She has a straightforward personality. If her words offend you, please do not take offense. Gu Qingze said calmly, Hai Duke, if you have something to say, why don't you get straight to the point? Why did you ask me to come to the Hai Duke's public house? It can't be that you want me to drink my fill and then admire your daughter's clumsy dance, right? You stinking country bumpkin. Princess Zhao Rong was instantly angered. She pointed at him and cursed. Zhao Rong, have you forgotten what your father told you? Quickly apologize to Dr. Gu. Hai Duke Ning shouted. Father. Princess Zhao Rong could not help but stomp her feet in protest. Apologize. Princess Zhao Rong's face was bright red, but she did not dare to disobey her father. She gritted her teeth and said, Hai Duke, I apologize. Gu Qingze didn't even look at her. Hai Duke, if there's nothing else, please open the door to the secret room. I'll be taking my leave. Duke Ning chuckled. Divine Dr. Gu, they're only you, my daughter, and me here. There are no outsiders. I'll be frank with you. Today, I've invited you over for one thing only. Oh, Hai Duke is finally willing to speak the truth. Tell me, what is it? I'm all ears. Duke Ning put away his smile, and his expression became solemn as he said, Divine Physician Gu is young and handsome, and your medical skills are outstanding. This Duke feels like an old friend to you, and I admire you very much. I don't know why, but this Duke has always looked down on young people, but when I saw you, I felt that we were congenial. This Duke only has one beloved daughter, and she is my most precious treasure in this world. This Duke wants to hand my daughter's Zhao Rong to you. What do you think, Divine Physician Gu? Chapter 1483. What? Lord Duke, are you joking? This joke isn't funny at all. After Gu Qingze recovered from his shock, anger appeared on his face. Zhao Rong Junju didn't believe her ears at all. She widened her eyes and said, Father, what nonsense are you saying? How can you promise your daughter's life to this country bumpkin? Shut up. Divine Dr. Gu is a dragon among men. What country bumpkin? If you say one more word of nonsense, I will slap your mouth. Duke Ning's face was full of anger as he scolded Zhao Rong. Zhao Rong Junju's eyes were filled with tears. Due to her father's authority, she didn't dare to say anything else. She could only angrily stare at Gu Qingze. Seeing his coarse hemp, clothing, and his face that could barely be considered delicate, he wasn't even fit to carry the shoes of the emperor cousin in her heart. Father, even if you beat your daughter to death, your daughter definitely won't marry him. She panicked and immediately shouted without a care in the world. Ha! Duke Ning flipped his hand and heavily struck Zhao Rong Junju's right cheek, leaving behind 5 red fingerprints. Shut up, he yelled loudly. Zhao Rong Junju was full of grievances. She originally wanted to cry out loud, but after being yelled at by Duke Ning, she was so scared that her entire body shook. She covered her right cheek and didn't dare to cry out loud. She had never seen her father so angry at her before. She didn't dare to resent her father and could only glare at Gu Qingze. She thought to herself, if this country bumpkin dared to agree, she would definitely make him die a horrible death. In this lifetime, other than her cousin the emperor, she wouldn't marry anyone else. Gu Qingze coldly looked at the father and daughter pair. The corner of his mouth curled up in a mocking smile. Lord Duke's good intentions. This one cannot accept it. Your daughter is a princess with a body of 1,000 gold. This one is only of humble birth and a commoner. The difference in status is like heaven and earth. How can I be a match for the princess? Zhao Rongjunju hatefully thought. At least this country bumpkin has some self-awareness. If you want to be a match for this princess, then reincarnate in your next life. Duke Ning said, Divine Dr. Gu, there is no need to be humble. In my eyes, it is my daughter who is not a match for Divine Doctor, not you who is not a match for my daughter. As for your status as a princess, it is just a title. As long as Divine Dr. Gu is willing, after you and my daughter get married, you will be the princess of the court. Divine Dr. Gu can enjoy all of the honor my daughter enjoys. Divine Dr. Gu can enjoy all of it. Gu Qingze coldly smiled and said, Lord Duke, does this one think this one is a greedy person? That's not it, that's not it. This one admires Divine Dr. Gu's pure and proud bearing. You are like a pure and clean lotus, untainted by filth. You see wealth and honor as nothing more than floating clouds, which makes this one look at you in a new light. This one admires your character and medical skills. As long as you don't despise my daughter's ugly appearance and stubborn personality, this one is willing to betroth my daughter to Divine Dr. Gu as a wife. Duke Ning stroked his beard and looked at Gu Qingze with a smile. The more Zhao Rongjunju heard, the angrier she became. Her father had actually raised this country bumpkin to the heavens and reduced her to a dirt tower under his feet. How was she ugly and stubborn? She was clearly the Zhao Rongjunju that everyone loved, and the flowers bloomed when they saw her. Chapter 1484. Father, why do you have to give your daughter to him? He was so good about him. In what way could he compare to his cousin, the emperor? Didn't you promise your daughter that you would let your daughter marry the emperor cousin to become the empress? It's only been a day, and you've already changed your mind. Why is this happening? Zhaorong Princess was angry and anxious. She pulled on Duke Ning's sleeve and spoke while crying. Duke Ning reprimanded. Stop calling him the emperor cousin. That is the emperor. The emperor already has an empress. How could he marry you? You'd better give up on that idea as soon as possible. The ancient divine doctor's character is good, his medical skills are divine, and he's the same age as you. He is a good match for you. Zhao Rong, believe Father. Father will not harm you and will not ruin your life. He said this while heavily patting the back of Zhao Rong Princess' hand. Zhao Rong Princess was stunned. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked at Duke Ning in a daze, not knowing what to say for a while. No matter how deep her thoughts were, how could they compare to Duke Ning's deep schemes and deep foresight? The fact that Duke Ning was able to say such words meant that he already had a plan. After returning from the Enqing Palace, he understood that all his plans had gone to waste. Zhao Rong had made a fool of herself in the palace. It would be hard for her to change her fate. Her dream of becoming the empress had been completely shattered. With Empress Dowager Zhou's personality, no matter how much she liked Zhao Rong, she would not allow a girl with a stained reputation to become the empress. Of all the noble juniors in the capital, there would not be a single person that would ask for Zhao Rong's hand in marriage. Could it be that his precious daughter would be ruined like this? Would she become an old girl that no one wanted? Of course not. Duke Ning pondered for a long time before he thought of the most suitable candidate, and that was Gu Qingze. Even in his eyes, Gu Qingze was even more valuable than Mo Chuan. Although Mo Chuan was the West Chu emperor, what was West Chu? They were the weakest of the four countries and had been bullied by East Qin for many years, so they couldn't even take a single blow. If one day East Qin and South Yu worked together to attack West Chu would suffer the fate of being conquered. At that time, Imo Chuan would become a prisoner, and if Zhao Rong became the empress, she would also become a slave to another country. But Gu Qingze was different. He was the world's #1 divine doctor, someone that all 4 countries wanted to curry favor with. As long as the name of the #1 divine doctor was mentioned, everyone would rush to him like a flock, like stars surrounding the moon. Although he did not have an official position, he was even more prestigious than the emperor. No matter where he went, he would not be obstructed by anyone. If Zhao Rong married to him, she would have a lifetime of support. As for himself, now that he had become the father-in-law of the world's #1 divine doctor, would he still be afraid that others wouldn't rush to curry favor with him? Of course, this wasn't the most important reason. The most important reason was that he could rely on Gu Qingze's influence to attain his objective and fulfill his wish. Of course, he would not tell Zhao Rong Junju about his meticulous plan. If he told her, that idiot of a daughter would probably tell the world what he was thinking. Although Gu was Gu, he Ning not Gu, he was the Zhao, he was the same. Chapter 1485. A look of impatience appeared on Gu Qingze's face. Lord High Duke, your beloved daughter doesn't like me, and it just so happens that I don't like your daughter either. Lord High Duke, please don't mention this marriage again. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. He was now very regretful. He really shouldn't have come to this banquet. He never thought that Duke Ning would have such an absurd idea. He actually wanted him to be his son-in-law. Duke Ning didn't even have time to speak before Zhao Rong Junju exploded. She pointed at Gu Qingze and shouted, "Stinky country bumpkin, what did you say? You don't like this regent princess? You? Who do you think you are? What right do you have to look down on this regent princess? Speak clearly to this regent princess." She originally didn't want to marry Gu Qingze, even if she was beaten to death. But when she heard that Gu Qingze didn't like her, the anger in her chest almost made her explode. Others wanted to marry her, but couldn't, yet he still had a face full of disdain. Just for this, she still wanted to marry him. Stinky country bumpkin, this regent princess is telling you. This regent princess likes you. You have to marry me, even if you don't want to. I won't marry anyone but you. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She blurted out these words. Once the words left her mouth, she suddenly realized what she had said. She suddenly covered her mouth and her eyes widened. What was wrong with her? Did she lose her mind? She actually said she wanted to marry this country bumpkin? No. I won't marry. Father, I was just talking nonsense. Just pretend I didn't say anything. She forcefully shook her head and quickly denied it. A smile appeared on Duke Ning's face as he patted her shoulder and said, "Good child, I knew that you would agree to this marriage. Father's judgment can't be wrong. Divine Dr. Gu, I know that you are still young and tender, and I have made you embarrassed by proposing this rashly. How about this? I will give you some time to consider." He looked at Gu Qingze with a smile, his eyes full of expectation. Gu Qingze didn't even think about it and shook his head to refuse. His expression was very firm. There's no need to think about it. I definitely won't agree to this. I'm just a nobody, not worthy of your precious regent princess. He said it resolutely and decisively, leaving no room for negotiation. Both Duke Ning and Zhao Rong regent princess were stunned. Especially Zhao Rong regent princess. It was like giving a golden phoenix to him. No one in this world would refuse such a wonderful thing, unless they were idiots. High Duke Ning had never thought that Gu Qingze would reject him. He believed that with his status, family background, and his daughter's beauty and martial arts skills, she was more than enough to marry Gu Qingze. It was like sending a golden phoenix to his side. There was absolutely no one in this world who would reject such a wonderful thing, unless they were a fool. But he didn't expect Gu Qingze to be such an edie. He also felt embarrassed. He looked at Gu Qingze and didn't say a word for a long time. Gu Qingze's cold gaze fell on his face. He suddenly curled his lips and said, "High Duke, if I don't agree to marry Her Highness, are you going to kill me to silence me?" He did not miss the flash of killing intent in Duke Ning's eyes. However, he wasn't afraid. His hands quietly pressed on the armrests, and his eyes were fixed on Duke Ning. As long as the other party made a move, he would be able to preemptively strike first. Chapter 1486. Duke Ning's principle had always been, if you don't work for me, you will be killed by me. No matter how much he admired Gu Qingze, the moment Gu Qingze rejected him, the first thought that surged in his heart was, kill him. This secret room looked empty, and there was nothing special about it, but the four walls, ceiling, and floor were all covered in hidden weapons. As long as he gently waved his hand, the hidden weapons coming from all directions would turn Gu Qingze into a porcupine. His finger was already on the hidden weapon switch. As long as he pressed it, Gu Qingze would have no chance of surviving. But seeing the other side's cold eyes looking at him, for some reason, Duke Ning's heart skipped a beat and his finger could not press it. He stared fixedly at Gu Qingze, and Gu Qingze stared back at him without showing any weakness. Their gazes met in the air, and a strange feeling suddenly arose in Duke Ning's heart. He not only wanted to use and admire this young man in front of him, but also had an indescribable palpitation. It was precisely this indescribable throbbing that made him want to do his utmost to rope in Gu Qingze, even to the extent that he didn't hesitate to take the initiative to betroth his daughter to Gu Qingze in order to achieve his goal. He wholeheartedly wanted to make Gu Qingze one of his own, but Gu Qingze refused him without any reason. Why? Why does he resist marrying Zhao Rong like this? If he doesn't want anything from me, why would he come to my banquet? Why doesn't he ask anyone else for a promise and instead asks me for one? He clearly wants something from me. Duke Ning's heart quickly turned with countless thoughts. He had invited Gu Qingze to the banquet as a test. If Gu Qingze did not come and rejected him like the other ministers, Duke Ning would not be surprised. But he had come. This was enough to show that Gu Qingze looked at him, Duke Ning, differently. Duke Ning believed that his judgment was not wrong. This was also the reason why he dared to propose marriage to Gu Qingze. Looking at West Chu, with Duke Ning's position, other than the emperor, it was him. If Gu Qingze wanted a backer, who else could it be but him? But to his surprise, Gu Qingze didn't even spare a glance at the embroidered ball he threw out. Could it be that he really didn't like Zhao Rong? Did he already have someone in his heart? The person he loved couldn't be his disciple, Chen Ning, right? Duke Ning's mind turned and his eyes fell onto his daughter. Although he saw Chen Ning as a thorn in his side, he had to admit that Zhao Rong was inferior to Chen Ning in every aspect. If he was Gu Qingze, he would not choose Zhao Rong. He was suddenly a bit discouraged and waved his hand. Zhao Rong, leave first. Zhao Rong Junju didn't want to stay here for a long time. Hearing this, she angrily glared at Gu Qingze and retreated behind a veil. With a creaking sound, she had already exited the secret room. Gu Qingze finally found out that there was a secret door behind the veil. Ever since he entered this secret chamber, he had been on high alert. With his level of understanding of mechanisms, he could naturally tell that this seemingly empty and ordinary secret chamber was filled with hidden mechanisms and killing intent, but he was not afraid at all. In fact, he even hoped to see High Duke Ning activate his mechanism, and he would be able to compete with him. He wanted to see if High Duke Ning's mechanism was more powerful, or if Gu Qingze's hidden weapons were more tyrannical. Chapter 1487. Seeing Zhao Rong Junju leave the secret room, Gu Qingze crossed his arms and smiled coldly. What? Lord Duke's honey trap didn't work. So what plan are you going to use to deal with me now? Duke Ning shook his head and said, Divine Dr. Gu has misunderstood this Duke. This Duke has always admired you and only hoped to be friends with you. How could there be the word deal? Speaking of which, this Duke still has a request. Ask me? A strange light flashed through Gu Qingze's eyes and the cold smile on his lips deepened. Lord Duke, what request do you have? Duke Ning stared at him. Suddenly, he grabbed the front of his robe with both hands and pulled it apart. The jade buttons fell to the ground, and his upper body was revealed. He was over 40 years old, but because he had lived like a prince, his skin was still smooth and tight, white and fine. If he didn't take off his clothes, no one would be able to see that his skin was even more delicate than the face of a daughter of a noble family. However, his white and fine skin was covered in scales that looked like snakeskin. It covered his chest and back, and even his 2 arms were covered in it. It made one's hair stand on end, and it was a ghastly sight. If Zhao Rong Junju saw this scene, she would definitely scream. But Gu Qingze only looked coldly and didn't even move his eyebrows. "Divine Dr. Gu, please save me. I have this strange illness that only you can cure. Please save me." There were only the 2 of them in the secret room. Duke Ning threw away his high and mighty position of a duke and began to beg bitterly. Gu Qingze was unmoved. His gaze slowly moved over the snake's skin on his body, and he smiled faintly. "Lord Duke, you seem to have used the prescription that my disciple gave to treat your daughter, right?" Yes, Divine Dr. Gu. You are so powerful that you can even see this. You must have a way to save me, right?" Duke Ning's body trembled, and countless hopes sprouted in his heart from these words. It was because he had used the snake slough and gold thread that snakeskin-like skin lesions began to grow all over his body, replacing the original fish scales. What was most unbearable was not the snakeskin-like lines, but the pain and itch that came with it. When he had fish scale spots on his body, it was unbearably itchy. But after it turned into snakeskin ringworm, it was painful and itchy. He didn't know whether to scratch it or not. The itch and pain drilled into his heart, and this feeling almost tortured him to the point of insanity. Throughout the banquet, he didn't know how much strength he used to maintain a smile on his face. He didn't want others to notice, but in reality, he couldn't sit still. He wanted to take a knife and cut off his skin piece by piece. And the most frightening thing was that he found that the snake skin was rapidly spreading and expanding all over his body. Originally, it was only a small area on his chest, but it soon covered his chest, back, legs, and arms. At this rate, even his face would not be spared. What if his face was also covered with snakeskin? How could he go out and meet people? Was he supposed to stay in the public house for the rest of his life like a coward? Ning. In this world, the only person who could save him was Gu Qingze. Chapter 1488. Duke Ning said these words through gritted teeth. He knew that he didn't have any bargaining chips right now. The only thing that could move Gu Qingze was this condition. As for whether or not the words he said would count, it wasn't within his consideration. In any case, there were only the 2 of them in this secret room. It wasn't like yesterday in Qing Palace Hall. In front of the emperor and the civil and military officials, his promise was as heavy as Mount Tai and had to be fulfilled. Now, even if he made a few more promises, there was nothing to be afraid of. In any case, there was no third person who knew. In terms of scheming and thick-skinned, 10 Gu Qingzes couldn't compare to 1 Duke Ning. Gu Qingze raised his eyebrows. 10 promises? Yes. As long as Godly Doctor is willing to help, I will do whatever you want me to do. Duke Ning patted his chest and said very generously. Gu Qingze smiled coldly. Yesterday, in the Anqing Palace Hall, I only asked for 1 promise from the High Duke, but the High Duke made all sorts of excuses and didn't agree to it. But today you are so generous to make 10 promises. There are only the 2 of us here. I'm afraid that the High Duke has already made up his mind and wants to renege on the debt, right? Duke Ning thought to himself that this brat was so powerful that he could actually see through his thoughts. However, he was very shrewd. Even though his thoughts were exposed, his expression didn't change. Godly Doctor, you have the token that I gave you. As long as you take it out, I can't renege on the debt. Are you afraid that I will go back on my word? He said calmly. However, only he knew how much strength he had to use to keep the muscles on his face from trembling. The snake skin on his body was already extremely painful and itchy. Every moment, he wanted to scratch it with all his might. Gu Qingze looked at him without blinking. From Duke Ning's face, he didn't see any signs of reneging. He also didn't want to renege. As long as he could no longer feel the pain and itch, he was willing to pay any price. Seeing that Gu Qingze didn't nod, Duke Ning finally couldn't help but say, Godly Dr. Gu, If you don't help me, are you going to watch me die? He did have the thought of dying in his heart. He was the dignified Duke Ning, who had a high position and was respected by everyone. If others knew that he had such a strange disease and had turned into a half-human, half-snake monster, even if he didn't die from the pain, he would still die of shame. Moreover, the pain and itch went deep into his bones. It made him feel that every moment of his life was torture. It was better to die than to die. Moreover, the pain and itch went deep into his bones, making him feel that every moment of his life was torture. It was better to die. Duke Ning didn't notice. He nodded his head forcefully and said, "That's right. I'd rather die if I have to continue suffering like this. If the ancient divine doctor refuses to save me, then I'll have no choice but to die." Guqingzi couldn't help but sneer when he heard this. "Duke, are you using your own life to threaten me? What you said. Duke's life. What does it have to do with me?" Duke Ning's mouth twitched, and he said, "My life is naturally nothing to the godly doctor, but if I die, then I will never be able to fulfill the promise I made to you." A sly look appeared on his face. This was his last bargaining chip, and it was also the most powerful one. Chapter 1489. Although Duke Ning didn't know what Guqingzi wanted him to promise, this promise was equivalent to a contract between the two of them. It was the same as two grasshoppers tied to a rope. Advance together, retreat together. Originally, he thought this promise was a restriction on him, but now it seemed like it had become an advantageous weapon in his hands. He dared to conclude that before he fulfilled that promise, Guqingzi would definitely not let him die, so he would definitely not stand by and watch his illness. I couldn't tell that Lord Duke's scheming was actually this deep. After a long time, Guqingzi finally spoke slowly. He looked at Duke Ning with disdain, and sarcasm in his eyes. However, Duke Ning didn't care at all, as long as he could cure his strange illness. So what if he was looked down on? Being ridiculed a few times was nothing. "Miracle doctor, you've agreed to treat my illness?" The muscles on his face trembled slightly due to excitement, and his eyes shone brightly as he looked at Guqingzi. Guqingzi snorted noncommittally. Duke Ning was overjoyed. He knew that he had guessed correctly. The other party really had a favor to ask of him. "Miracle doctor, as long as you cure my illness, there will only be benefits for you, and absolutely no harm. I'm definitely not an ungrateful person." In his joy, he didn't forget to promise the other party benefits again. Unexpectedly, Guqingzi rolled his eyes and said coldly, "What? Lord Duke isn't? Has Lord Duke never done anything shameful in your life?" His voice was filled with anger and sarcasm. Duke Ning was stunned, then smiled and said, "I've done things with a clear conscience. Only people betray me, but I never betray anyone." Hee. Lord Duke's words are really pleasant to hear. Guqingzi smiled coldly. Duke Ning ignored the obvious sarcasm on his face and said with a smile, "Miracle doctor, please take a look at my illness." He extended his hand. As the saying goes, strike the iron while it's hot. He wanted to kill this nail before Guqingzi changed his mind. Guqingzi sneered and said, "Lord Duke, are you afraid that I'll change my mind? You don't have to. You guessed correctly. I do have a favor to ask of you, so I won't let you die just like that." His voice was icy cold, carrying a bone-piercing chill. Duke Ning's back suddenly shivered. He felt that this young man in front of him seemed to have a deep-seated hatred towards him, so he couldn't help but look at his face. But with one glance, he found that the other's face was as usual. Other than indifference, there was no hatred. He couldn't see any. He laughed at himself for being too suspicious. He hadn't known the other for long and had never offended him. So where did he come from? Guqingzi raised his hand and placed his fingers on his wrist. He closed his eyes and checked his pulse. Duke Ning only felt that the other party's fingers were ice cold, without the slightest bit of warmth. When they touched his wrist, he couldn't help but shiver. "Lord, are you afraid of me?" Guqingzi suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Duke Ning with his bright and spirited eyes. Duke Ning's body trembled again. He forced a smile and said, "Divine Doctor, you must be joking. Why should I be afraid of you? Are you afraid that you will prescribe fake medicine or poison to me? The Divine Doctor is famous throughout the world. How could he be such a despicable person?" Chapter 1490. Duke Ning was startled. Then he shook his head and said, "This Duke has never been infatuated with women. In this life, I only had Zhao Rong's mother as my companion. Before her, I never had any relations with other women. After she died, I no longer had any other thoughts. I only wanted to raise Zhao Rong well and find a good husband for her." These words were from the bottom of his heart. For some reason, he could clearly feel that Gu Qingze seemed to have a faint hostility towards him, but he still couldn't help but pour out his heart to the other. Perhaps in the depths of his heart, he still wasn't willing to give up and wanted to use Zhao Rong to pull Gu Qingze to his side. Is that so? Gu Qingze only said these two words before he closed his eyes and started to feel the pulse again. Duke Ning lowered his head slightly and stared unblinkingly at his face. That sparse eyebrow and straight nose suddenly gave him a feeling of déjà vu. In terms of appearance, Gu Qingze's facial features could only be said to be delicate and pretty, but in Duke Ning's eyes, he felt indescribably comfortable. A thought flashed through his mind. He seemed to have seen this young man somewhere before, but he couldn't think of any clues after searching through his memories. Speaking of which, his and Zhao Rong's eyebrows and eyes are somewhat similar. That's why I feel a little familiar. And the two of them really do look a little similar. Could it be that this is really fate that was destined in a previous life? Duke Ning thought as he observed Gu Qingze's expression, his heart uneasy. After a long while, Gu Qingze finished feeling his pulse and withdrew his hand. "Godly doctor, has my illness been cured?" Duke Ning anxiously asked. Gu Qingze glanced at him. "Lord Duke, why did you take the medicine that my disciple prescribed for the princess without any rhyme or reason? Your body that looks like a snake's skin is all from that snake's molt. Fortunately, you only took 2 doses. If you took it for 3 days, your entire body would be covered in snake skin. Even your head and face would be no exception. At that time, you would become a strange person that looks like a snake. So this strange illness of mine is really caused by drinking that medicine." Duke Ning had long suspected this. Hearing Gu Qingze's words, he was even more afraid. At the same time, he rejoiced that he had invited Gu Qingze to the manor early on. Otherwise, he really would have become the snakeskin person that Gu Qingze spoke of. But godly doctor, Zhao Rong also drank this medicine. After she drank it, she didn't have the same symptoms as me. So why did my body become like this? He thought and asked. Gu Qingze said coldly, "Zhao Rong Junju has psoriasis. That snake skin and gold thread are the most effective medicines to treat psoriasis. But medicine is 3 parts poisonous. Lord Duke, have you heard of this before? This snake skin can treat psoriasis, but if those who doesn't have with psoriasis use it, then they will become like state." Duke Ning couldn't help but blurt out, "I also have psoriasis. It's the same illness that Zhao Rong has. I thought that Zhao Rong would be cured after taking that medicine, but after I took it, snake skin grew all over my body. Why is this happening?" Gu Qingze replied with an "oh" and said faintly, "Lord High Duke, you've also contracted psoriasis." Chapter 1491. Afterwards, red rashes began to appear on my skin, which then turned into red spots, and then into pieces of white fish scale-like skin flakes. The symptoms were exactly the same as what Godly Doctor had said. "Godly Doctor, you said that Zhao Rong's strange disease was highly contagious, and it was very likely to be hereditary. So, it must be me. I caused Zhao Rong to have this disease, so I concluded that it must be Godly Doctor. Coincidentally, the Empress gave Zhao Rong a prescription, and after Zhao Rong drank it, the effect was extremely good, so I also drank a dose. I didn't expect that not long after drinking the medicine, the fish scale-like skin flakes actually turned into snake skin, and it was painful and itchy. Godly doctor, quickly prescribe a dose of medicine. Save me. Duke Ning had already endured for a long time. At this time, he finally couldn't bear it anymore. He turned his hand over and grabbed toward his back. You can't grab. Gu Qingze pressed on the armrest, and a black rope suddenly flew out, wrapping around Duke Ning's wrist. What you have isn't godly doctor, but because you used medicine indiscriminately, it's full of snakeskin. If you scratch the affected area, the consequences will be unimaginable. When Duke Ning heard this, he didn't dare to grab anymore. Looking at the black rope on his wrist, his face was even more stunned. He couldn't see where this black rope had flown out from. Gu Qingze pulled on the mechanism, and the black chain retracted without a sound. Only then did Duke Ning realize that Gu Qingze's chair, which never left his side, actually had such a powerful hidden weapon hidden in it. He was instantly shocked, thinking that he had really underestimated this young man. No wonder he dared to come to the banquet alone, and dared to follow him into the secret room alone. Godly doctor, please save me, save me. Duke Ning couldn't care less about his face, and knelt down in front of Gu Qingze. Gu Qingze's face turned cold, and with a turn of the wheel, he avoided his kowtow. Lord Duke, I'm just a lowly person from the mountains, and I can't accept such a big bow from you. If you continue to be like this, don't blame me for not treating you. Fine, I won't kneel. Please quickly treat me. Godly doctor, I really can't take it anymore. Duke Ning hurriedly stood up. Gu Qingze thought for a bit, and then pressed the mechanism. He took out a bottle of ointment from a hidden medical box, and used his fingernail to pick out a bit, saying to Duke Ning, this medicine will be very painful when applied to your body. Can you take it? If you can't, then I won't waste this precious ointment. I won't waste this precious ointment. Duke Ning nodded his head repeatedly. When he heard that this ointment was extremely precious, his eyes instantly lit up. Godly doctor, you said that I have psoriasis, but my symptoms are exactly the same as Zhao Rong's. Although the symptoms are the same, the treatment is different. You are a man, and she is a woman. One is young, one lean, one hard, one gentle. Even if you have the same symptoms, the two prescriptions cannot be mixed. Does the High Duke not understand this principle? Gu Qingze said mercilessly. As he spoke, he applied the ointment in his hand onto Duke Ning's snakeskin. As soon as the ointment came into contact with his skin, Duke Ning let out a blood-curdling scream. He was in so much pain that his entire body was trembling. He shouted, ouch! It hurts! It's so King painful. Gu Qingze said with a straight face, if Lord Duke can't take it, then I won't apply it. Chapter 1492. Duke Ning gritted his teeth so hard that they creaked. His facial features were all scrunched together from the pain. Gu Qingze nodded and said, okay, since it's like this, Lord Duke must endure it. He picked up the ointment and applied it bit by bit on Duke Ning's snakeskin. He only applied a small portion each time, but it brought Duke Ning a heart-wrenching pain. It was as if a sharp knife was slicing his flesh piece by piece. The pain made his face pale, and beads of sweat rolled down his forehead like rain. There were several times when his vision darkened, and he almost fainted. But every time he was about to be unable to endure it, Gu Qingze would slow down and let the heart-wrenching pain pass before continuing to apply the ointment on him. Duke Ning was secretly grateful for his attentiveness and consideration, but he would rather Gu Qingze apply the ointment all over his body. It would be even more painful, and he might as well faint from the pain to avoid the pain of being sliced by a knife. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Gu Qingze seemed to have seen through his thoughts. As he applied the ointment, he said unhurriedly, does Lord Duke wish for me to apply the ointment on you all at once? But that won't do. If that's the case, I'm afraid Lord Duke won't be able to endure the pain. It's very likely that you will faint from the pain and never wake up again. For Lord Duke's safety, it's better for you to endure it. Duke Ning was even more grateful. He gritted his teeth and endured the pain, saying, Divine Dr. Gu is so thoughtful for me. I really can't thank you enough. This ointment needs to be applied for 20 days. I will write down the formula for this ointment for you. In the next 20 days, Lord Duke can find someone to apply the ointment on you. As long as you endure these 20 days, the snake skin on your body will completely fall off. From then on, it won't relapse again. My medical skills are shallow, and I'm truly ashamed that I have to make Lord Duke suffer for another 20 days. Gu Qingzi spoke apologetically, but the expression on his face was calm and without a ripple, and his eyes flashed with a light that no one could understand. He seemed to be happy, excited, and even more like he was in a faint pain. 20 days? I have to suffer for another 20 days? Duke Ning sucked in a breath of cold air and almost fainted again. This time, the severe pain had almost taken his life. If he had to endure this pain for another 20 days, suffering the feeling of having his flesh cut by a knife every day, he would rather die. No. It was better to be alive. As long as he endured these 20 days of pain, his illness would disappear completely. He could see people again and sweep away the bad luck he had been hiding for the past 3 years. By the time Gu Qingzi finished applying the ointment, Duke Ning was already in so much pain that he only had half his breath. He couldn't even move. After a while, he finally let out a sigh of relief. "Godly doctor, are you done applying it?" Gu Qingzi looked at Ning, and slowly, Duke Ning, that he divine doctor. "All right, thank you, godly doctor. I'll open the secret door and send you out." The ointed that he Duke Ning said. Duke Ning, long Duke bye Duke Ning said. Knowing that the ointment was effective, he was overjoyed. He pressed the mechanism and opened the secret room's door. Gu Qingzi went outside and wrote a prescription on a piece of paper before handing it over to Duke Ning. Chapter 1493. Duke Ning nodded his head repeatedly and took the prescription. He held it tightly in his palm, like it was a treasure, and repeatedly thanked Gu Qingzi. Gu Qingzi glanced at him and faintly said, "I still have a bottle of pills here. I'll give it to Princess Zhaorong. Although my disciple has prescribed the right medicine, she doesn't understand the effects of supplementation. The medicinal properties of the snake slough and the gold thread are fierce. Princess might feel uncomfortable after taking them, but if she takes this medicine of mine, there won't be any problems." He took out a porcelain bottle and handed it to Duke Ning. "Many thanks, Divine Dr. Gu. I didn't think that Divine Doctor would still care about my daughter's illness. Wait until I call my daughter out to personally thank you." Duke Ning was surprised, but a smile quickly spread across his face. He took the medicine bottle and prepared to send someone to call Princess Zhaorong. "No need, this is nothing. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave now." Gu Qingzi didn't even want to look at Princess Zhaorong. After speaking, he turned his wheelchair and left. Duke Ning was filled with gratitude as he personally saw him out of the foo. He stood in front of the gate and watched as the carriage he was in moved further and further away until it disappeared. He was still looking in the direction he left in. His heart was filled with emotion. This young man called Gu Qingzi was not arrogant or impetuous, did not covet wealth and glory, and did not like beauties. Yet, he had superb medical skills. He was truly a talent that was rarely seen in 100 years. It would be a great waste if he couldn't use this kind of talent. He heard that in 2 days, he would be leaving the capital. Duke Ning had to think of a way to make him stay in these 2 days. If he let this talent go, it would be a great loss for him. It seemed that he had to think of a way through Zhaorong. No matter how virtuous that Gu Qingzi was, he was still a hot-blooded youth. How could youth like him not like beautiful young women? Duke Ning was experienced. He knew that with Zhaorong's appearance, she was one of the best among the noble young ladies of the capital. How could Gu Qingzi not be moved? He had declined Zhaorong's marriage in the secret room, but he was just putting on an act. If he really had no interest in Zhaorong, how could he so easily treat his illness? Also, not only did he give him the recipe for the ointment, he was also concerned about Zhaorong's illness and left a bottle of medicine for her. If this wasn't having feelings for Zhaorong, what was it? Duke Ning became more proud the more he thought about it. He returned to the Fu and went straight to Princess Zhao Rong's garden. He handed the bottle of medicine that Gu Qingze had left for him to Zhao Rong Junju and specially said, "This is the medicine that Dr. Gu gave to me before he left. It was specially prepared for you. You must treasure Dr. Gu's good intentions." Zhao Rong Junju was still angry. Every time she heard the 3 words, "ancient godly physician," she felt her chest tighten. Hearing this made her even angrier. What bullsh** T miracle doctor? I think he's just a Jianghu swindler. I don't want to use his medicine. She picked up the bottle and was about to throw it out when Ning Guogong glared at her. Her hand that was holding the bottle stopped in midair. "Father, why do you keep saying good things about that country bumpkin? You wouldn't really want your daughter to marry him, right?" She flattened her lips. "Marry him? Even if you want to marry him, he might not want to marry you." Duke Ning glared at his daughter and said unhappily. Chapter 1494. The Zhaorong princess relied on her father's love and threw herself into Duke Ning's embrace like a spoiled child. If it was a normal time, Duke Ning's heart would have softened seeing his beloved daughter acting spoiled like this. If she said she wanted the stars in the sky, he would even give them to her. But this time, the Zhaorong princess move didn't work. Duke Ning did not go along with her and instead scolded her with a serious face. "Zhaorong, you were arrogant before and father allowed you to do whatever you wanted, but your marriage was decided by father. If you want to marry the emperor and become the empress, you should just give up on that thought." He hardened his heart and pushed Zhao Rong away from his embrace. The Zhao Rong princess was stunned. She looked at Duke Ning in a daze and shouted in disbelief, "Father, why? Why? You still have a nerve to ask me why? You made a fool of yourself in the palace yesterday. Could it be you don't remember? But your daughter was clearly framed by that little slut." "Framed? Do you have any proof? What makes you say that she framed you? Did she infect you with the psoriasis on your body?" "Zhaorong, things have reached this point. Why are you still so stubborn?" "Father, you promised your daughter yesterday that you would help your daughter ascend to the empress throne, but you changed your mind after just one night. Why?" The Zhaorong princess' eyes filled with tears. Duke Ning looked at her in disappointment. "Because father has already seen it clearly. You can't become the empress. Your daughter doesn't believe it. The Empress Dowager loves your daughter so much. She will definitely help your daughter." The Zhaorong princess thought of Empress Dowager Zhou, and her eyes lit up like she had grasped a piece of driftwood. "Empress Dowager? Stop dreaming. The Empress Dowager didn't see your scandal yesterday, but it will reach her ears sooner or later. Do you think she will agree to let you marry the emperor just because she loves you? She will not tolerate a daughter-in-law with a dirty reputation. The Empress is the best example. With her as an example, you should give up on this idea," Duke Ning cruelly said. He really couldn't watch his daughter immerse herself in the dream of becoming the Empress. Since she wanted pain, he would quickly cut it off and let her feel pain once she was satisfied. The Zhaorong princess' body trembled, and her eyes opened wide in disbelief. She forcefully shook her head and said, "Impossible. The Empress Dowager loves her daughter the most. The person she loves the most is me. She wouldn't be this cruel to me. She promised mother she would take care of me for my entire life." "Silly daughter, wake up. What kind of person is the Empress? She has been in the palace for several decades. Do you think her love for you is true? Do you think she has her eyes on you? If not for the fact that your father is Duke Ning, do you think she would treat you like this? Previously, she wanted you to enter the palace because she wanted to rope me in. But now, you have already lost your value. No matter what, she will not let you marry His Majesty. If you still haven't given up, tomorrow you can go into the palace and ask her yourself." Duke Ning's words were like a stick to Zhao Rong Regent Princess. She was dumbfounded. Chapter 1495. Duke Ning gave a sigh and hugged his daughter in his embrace. He patted her shoulder to comfort her. "Zhaorong, father is doing this for your own good. Believe in father's eyes. Father will not harm you. although that Gu Qingze is a commoner and has no official position. If you marry him, you will be even more glorious than marrying the emperor. The things you want, you will obtain them sooner or later." Zhao Rong's eyes were filled with tears as she sobbed and said, "But, father, your daughter doesn't just want to be the empress. Your daughter truly likes cousin the emperor." "You like him, but he doesn't like you." Yesterday at the palace banquet, father clearly saw that the emperor only had the empress in his eyes. He did not even look at you once. Even if the empress dowager really decrees a marriage for you, and you marry the emperor, he will not truly treat you. Are you really willing to be under someone else? The person you hate will bully you every day, and you will have no choice but to lower your head to her. You have always been proud since you were young. You won't be able to live like this for even a day. Think about father's words. Are you really not going to marry anyone other than the emperor? State Duke Ning tried his best to persuade him. Zhao Rong's mind was in chaos. The scene that Duke Ning described made her heart explode with rage. She had to be under Chen Ning and kowtow to Chen Ning when she saw her. Then she would be better off dead. No, your daughter doesn't want to live like that. But your daughter can't bear to part with cousin the emperor. Zhao Rong's lips twitched as she began to cry again. She thought of Mo Chuan's handsome and refined appearance. It was as clear as if it was right in front of her. In the 3 years that she had left the capital city, there was not a day that she didn't think of Mo Chuan in her heart. Not only did she love Mo Chuan's identity, she also loved his handsome face and his cold and aloof demeanor. Even if he didn't say anything, as long as she could silently look at him, it was a great pleasure for her. Thinking of how she had to give up her handsome as an immortal emperor cousin and marry that ordinary-looking country bumpkin that couldn't even hold her cousin's shoes, her heart felt like it was blocked by a large piece of cotton. "Father, why do you want me to marry that country bumpkin? Even if I can't marry the emperor, there are still many other illustrious young masters and nobles in the capital who admire me. I don't want to marry a country bumpkin who only knows how to farm. I'll be laughed at by others. Silly girl, don't be so short-sighted. Have you heard of the saying, don't bully the young for being poor? You think that Gu Qingze is a country bumpkin, but in father's eyes, he has limitless potential. If you marry him, you will definitely live a more glorious life than marrying anyone else," Duke Ning said with confidence. Zhao Rong Junju wiped her tears and said doubtfully, "But I really can't see what's so good about him. He's so ugly. He doesn't know any martial arts, and he's a cripple. But he's been sitting on that broken wooden chair the entire time, but hasn't moved at all. It's clear that his legs aren't good." "Nonsense. He isn't a cripple at all," Duke Ning interrupted her and reprimanded her. Chapter 1496. When Duke Ning recalled the black rope that had suddenly wrapped around his wrist, he couldn't help but admire Gu Qingze even more. He likes to sit in a chair because he doesn't know martial arts. However, he is more skilled than most people who know martial arts. Do you think that your mediocre martial arts can beat him? If you don't accept it, you can compete with him another day and see who is stronger. Zhao Rong Junju was unconvinced and said, "Father, you are boosting his ambition and diminishing your daughter's prestige. Your daughter has learned martial arts for 3 whole years. Your daughter doesn't believe that I can't beat that country bumpkin who doesn't know martial arts. Okay, if you don't believe me, then you can go and compete with him. But let me say the ugly words first. If you lose to him, you have to marry him." Duke Ning stared at Zhao Rong Junju and said, "Okay, it's a deal. Father, if your daughter wins, then you can't force me to marry that country bumpkin. Promise me first that you will find a way for me to marry cousin." Zhao Rong Junju rolled her eyes and smiled through her tears. She had complete confidence in her heart that she could absolutely beat Gu Qingze into a sorry state. "It's a deal." Duke Ning extended his hand and lightly clapped his daughter's palm 3 times. He also had a confident smile on his face. He believed that Gu Qingze would not lose to his daughter. "This is the medicine that godly Dr. Gu left for you. Quickly take it. If you want to win, you have to cure your illness." He took the medicine bottle from Zhao Rong's hand and stuffed it back into her hand. Zhao Rong Junju nodded her head and said, "Father, if your daughter takes this medicine, then I won't have to eat that disgusting snake skin and that bitter gold thread anymore, right?" She ate snake skin and gold thread for 2 days in a row. The gold thread was so bitter that she couldn't even open her mouth. The snake skin had a fishy, smelly, and salty smell that made her want to vomit. It was really hard to swallow, and she had to pinch her nose and force it down every time. Of course, Duke Ning said. Zhao Junju immediately smiled from ear to ear. She uncorked the bottle and poured out a white pill. She first brought it to her nose and sniffed it. Not only was it not fishy or smelly, but it also carried a faint sweet smell. Only then did she relax and put it in her mouth and swallow it. "Father, just because he gave me this bottle of medicine, I will not let him lose so badly." She giggled. "Don't be too confident. It is still unknown who will win. If you lose, I will have a genius doctor's son-in-law." Duke Ning stroked his beard and smiled. Zhao Rong Junju stomped her feet and pushed Duke Ning out of the room. She angrily said, "It's getting late. Father, you should go back to sleep. I will go find him tomorrow morning and compete with him. At that time, I will let you see my skills. I will beat him until he begs for mercy." She had already decided that she would win no matter what and would not. She wouldn't marry that country bumpkin. Duke Ning faintly smiled and didn't say anything more. He walked out with his hands behind his back. Zhao Rong Junju waited until Duke Ning's figure completely disappeared from her sight before she closed the door. She walked to the wall where a landscape painting was hanging. She lifted the paper and revealed a secret door on the wall. She pushed hard on the secret door, and it slowly opened, revealing a secret passage and a flight of stairs that led to the underground. Zhao Rong Junju took a candle stand and walked down the stairs. Chapter 1497. Behind a metal door was a small dark room. There was only a bed and a wooden table inside. There was a person lying on the bed, and there was an oil lamp burning on the wooden table. The dim light shone on the face of the person lying on the bed, making the face look especially haggard and sallow. Even the bright red clothes on the person's body had become dull and lifeless. Although that face was haggard, his facial features were surprisingly young and handsome. He had thick eyebrows and long eyelashes, a high-nose bridge, and thin yet angular lips that were tightly pursed. His face was pale and bloodless. His eyes were closed as if he was asleep. Even the sound of Zhao Rong Princess' footsteps didn't make him open his eyes. The red-clothed youth lying on the bed was the thousand-faced young master who had escaped from the imperial palace. Zhao Rong Princess stood in front of the bed and silently looked at him for a long time before finally speaking. "Thousand-faced young master," she called out softly. The red-clothed youth on the bed didn't move at all. If it weren't for the slight rise and fall of his chest that made it seem like he was still breathing, he would seem like a dead person. Zhao Rong Princess bit her lip. She wasn't sure if he was really asleep or if he didn't want to pay attention to her. She waited for a long time before her patience finally ran out. "I have something to say to you. I don't care if you're asleep or awake. I'll count from 1 to 3. If you still don't wake up, I'll throw you at the main gate of Guan Osprey Palace," she said fiercely. 1, 2. Before she could count to 3, the red-clothed youth suddenly opened his eyes. He coldly stared at her, but didn't say anything. Zhao Rong Princess proudly raised her nose and snorted. "Thousand-faced young master, now isn't the time for you to act mighty in front of this princess. If this princess hadn't saved you, you'd have already fallen into that little vixen's hands. Perhaps you would have been tortured by her until you didn't look like a human or a ghost. How could there be a quiet place like this for you to heal in peace?" Her current attitude was arrogant. She was no longer the Zhao Rong princess who didn't dare to raise her head or speak loudly in front of him. This was because the red-clothed youth on the bed was no longer that mysterious assassin from Purple Heaven Pavilion. He had already lost his cultivation and was lying on the bed all day like a fish out of water. The red-clothed youth said coldly, "Then I really must thank your highness for your kindness. You saved me and imprisoned me in this dark place. Aren't you afraid of the consequences? Consequences? What consequences? Zhao Rong Junju blinked her eyes and asked innocently. The young master in red gritted his teeth and said coldly, Your Highness, you can't be so forgetful. I am a member of the Purple Heaven Pavilion. Those who offend the people of the Purple Heaven Pavilion will never have a good ending. Although his voice was weak, his eyebrows were raised, and he was full of vigor. The cold-faced, emotionless killer had returned. Zhao Rong Junju felt a chill run down her spine from the murderous look in his eyes, but then she laughed unconcernedly. Thousand-faced young master, what are you being arrogant for? Do you think this is your Purple Heaven Pavilion? Don't use Purple Heaven Pavilion's name to scare this princess. Do you think the news of you being locked up here by me will spread? She laughed arrogantly and proudly. Chapter 1498. Although the person in front of her had become like this because of Chen Ning, she did not care. Everyone that went against her and looked down on her were her enemies, including this red-clothed young master. The red-clothed young master looked at the completely different Zhao Rong princess, and the killing intent in his eyes slowly disappeared. He laid on the bed without moving. He did not even have the strength to lift a finger. The internal energy that he had painstakingly cultivated for 20 years seemed to have completely disappeared. Not a single drop was left. He had even thought of cultivating again, but every time the true qi in his body condensed and took shape, it was immediately swallowed by an invisible beast, leaving not even a scrap behind. That damn bone-melting pill, it was this powerful. Without internal energy, he was like a cripple. No matter how ugly the Zhao Rong princess words were, or how she insulted him, he did not have the ability to resist. He could only endure the humiliation. The red-clothed young master closed his eyes and covered up his anger and hatred. 10 years is not too long for a gentleman to take revenge. As for why the Zhao Rong princess' attitude towards him was like a completely different person, he vaguely understood. This was because he remembered his respected master, the master of the Purple Heavens Pavilion, had once said, In this world, it is better to offend a villain than to offend a woman. Once a woman becomes ruthless, she is much scarier than a man. He did not understand these words before. He did not understand why the invincible master in his eyes would be afraid of a woman. What was there to be afraid of? They were all as weak as little chicks. He could break their necks with a pinch. He did not even care about killing women. It was not until he met Chen Ning that he realized for the first time that his master's words were the golden rule. They could not be any more accurate. There is only one woman as ruthless as Chen Ning in this world. But he never thought that when the idiot Zhao Rong princess became ruthless, he would not be able to handle it. Only a man would know when to yield and when to stand tall. The red-clothed young master opened his eyes and said to the Zhao Rong princess in an apologetic voice, It was my fault in the past. My words offended the princess. I hope the princess is a magnanimous person and will not take it to heart. If the princess has any use for me, just tell me. I will definitely help the princess fulfill her wish and repay you for saving my life. His eyes were sincere and his tone was sincere. The Zhao Rong princess had always been open to coaxing, but not coercion. When she heard these words of apology, she felt an indescribable comfort, especially when she saw the arrogant thousand-faced young master being as obedient as a sheep in front of her. Her heart was bursting with satisfaction. However, she was not stupid enough to believe everything that others said. At this time, the red-clothed young master had lost his power. That was why he was so obedient when he fell in her hands. However, which one of the people in the Purple Heaven Pavilion was simple? Especially this thousand-faced young master. She had long heard that the thousand-faced young master was the most powerful assassin in the Purple Cloud Pavilion. His assassination methods were endless, and his face was ever-changing. No one in the Jianghu had ever seen his true face. Now that he had no inner force, he was like a snake without teeth, nothing to be afraid of. She looked at the extraordinarily handsome face of the young man in red and suddenly felt curious. Chapter 1499. This face was very unfamiliar. Although it was pale and haggard, it was still so good-looking that people couldn't take their eyes off of it. It was not any worse than her royal cousin. The red-clothed young master gave a bitter laugh. He did not deny or admit it. The mask on his face had been shattered by Chun Ning's spear. After he was saved, the Zhaorong princess had sent people to wash his face. The remaining dandruff on his face had also been washed away. In these past few days, he had been thinking of a way to recover his strength and had forgotten about the mask. This face was indeed his original appearance. But in front of the Zhaorong princess, he was not willing to admit it. This was because other than his master, no one in the Purple Heaven Pavilion had ever seen his real face. If you don't say anything, does that mean you admit it? The Zhaorong princess was still young. When she saw a beautiful face, she couldn't help but compare it to her royal cousin. Her eyes turned around and looked at the red-clothed young master's face. After looking at it for a while, she made a comment. "It's a pity. Although you are good-looking, you can't compare to my royal cousin. You look too much like a woman. You are even better looking than a woman." The red-clothed young master's originally pale face suddenly turned red. The shame and humiliation made him clench his fists. He gritted his teeth and his eyes were filled with anger. These familiar words made him think of Chun Ning. That damn hateful woman. What did she call him? Sissy. He was confused at the time, but now he understood. This was the meaning of the word sissy. Great humiliation. This was a great humiliation. In this world, there was nothing more humiliating than this. It was saying to a man, "You look more like a woman than a woman." He was not a eunuch. Say that again. The red-clothed young master said in a low voice. His voice was filled with danger. The Zhaorong princess did not care at all. She giggled. "I said that you look like a woman. If you dress up as a woman, perhaps even that little slut will lose to you. How about I dress you up as a woman and send you into the palace? Perhaps my cousin, the emperor, will be enchanted by you the moment he sees your beauty." "Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do it that way. I'll go get the makeup tools right now." She turned to leave. As she walked, she couldn't help letting out a proud laugh. She applauded herself for coming up with such a good idea. "What? Wait, stop right there." The red-clothed young master did not care about being angry. His eyes almost popped out from his head. You're telling the truth? You're not joking?" "Of course it's true. Do you think this princess is bored and has time to play with you?" Zhaorong Junju turned around and smiled proudly at him. "Master Thousand Faces, I'm sure you're looking forward to seeing how beautiful you are when you turn into a woman, right?" "Don't worry, you'll see it soon enough. I'll find a maid who's the best at makeup to dress you up so beautifully that all the men will fall for you the moment they see you, and they'll bow down to you." She found it both interesting and funny. She very happy. She excited. She. The young man in red gritted his teeth and called out to her again. Chapter 1500. The red-robed young master gritted his teeth in hatred, but he knew that he had no power to resist. He could only do whatever Zhaorong Junju said. He took a breath and said, "Junju, you only need to bring some makeup and disguise tools. Don't call me a maid. I believe that no one in this world is better at disguising themselves than I, the thousand-faced young master. I can change into whatever you want me to look like. I will be as charming as you want me to be." "Really?" Yes. How could I forget? Since you're called the thousand-faced young master, your disguising skills must be top-notch." "Okay, then wait for me here. I will bring the tools immediately." Zhaorong Junju excitedly rushed out of the secret room. All that was left was the dim light and the red-robed young master lying on the bed. He turned his head and looked at the dim candle flame. His eyes narrowed dangerously. Even this idiot Junju was trying to bully him. Very good. He would remember this debt. One day, he would make them pay for all the humiliation he had suffered, bit by bit. He would not let a single one of them off. Zhaorong Junju had returned faster than he had imagined. She carried a large bundle in her hands. With a face full of excitement and joy, she rushed into the secret room. She placed the bundle on the table and opened it. The red-robed young master only took one look, and his face turned green. The bundle was filled to the brim with a lot of things used for women's makeup, such as rouge, face powder, balm, hair oil combs, as well as a screwdriver for drawing women's eyebrows. There were also several mirrors. Zhao Rongjunju had packed up all the makeup items on the table. However, there were very few disguising tools. There were only a few disguising pills that could change one's skin color. They were of the lowest quality. Normally, the thousand-faced young master wouldn't even look at them. The red-robed young master stared at the pile of makeup items on the table. He knew that Zhao Rongjunju was serious. She really wanted to make herself look like a woman. He, the thousand-faced young master, had changed his appearance countless times in his life. Old people, children, scholars, beggars, he would look like anything, but he had never once disguised himself as a woman. Thousand-faced young master, do you think these things are enough? If not, I will have the maids prepare more. What else do you need? Zhao Rongjunju presented the cosmetics one by one in front of the red-robed man, like she was presenting a treasure. With a face full of pride, she said, "The things here are the best and most expensive in the entire capital. Just one box of rouge from the 10,000 fragrances house costs 500 taels of silver. Even so, not many people in the capital can buy it." The red-robed young master didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Now that things had come to this, he still wanted to struggle. "Your Highness, I know you hate that girl with the surname Shun. Although I've lost my power, I have many ways to deal with someone. I don't necessarily have to kill her. You hate her so much. If you let her die so easily, wouldn't that be letting her off easy? If you want to find someone to help to deal with Shun, I am the most suitable candidate." His eyes were filled with anticipation as he stared at Zhao Rongjunju. As long as he didn't have to disguise himself as a woman, he was willing to do anything. Chapter 1501. She angrily threw a bag of powder at the red-robed man's face and angrily said, "This is the good thing you gave me? What catnip? Bullshit. I sent people to sprinkle it on that little b asterisk tch's clothes. I also saw her drink the catnip powder, but it didn't work at all. I even sent people to go around the city and catch more than 100 wildcats and place them near the palace. But the result? I didn't even see a shadow of a cat. That little b asterisk tch didn't even lose a single strand of hair." The red-robed man was stunned. He stared blankly at the bag of powder and said hesitantly, "Your Highness, did you take out the wrong powder? Is this not catnip? I gave you the purest catnip powder and the catnip powder. It's impossible that the cats wouldn't be interested." "Humph, you gave me a bag of fake powder to fool me. You want me to give you a place of protection and you want my father to make a promise? In your dreams. Fine, since you insist that this powder is real, then I will test it on you." The more she spoke, the angrier she became. She tore open the bag of powder and sprinkled it all over the red-robed man's face. Immediately, a faint minty aroma enveloped the red-robed young master's entire body. The red-robed man's expression changed, and he cried out, "Your Highness, don't. Please don't." He had personally purified the catnip powder, so he knew better than anyone how powerful it was. He could clearly smell that this bag of powder was the purest catnip. It was not fake at all. Zhao Rong Princess grunted and took out the catnip powder from her bosom. Without another word, she sprinkled it all over the red-robed man's body. The red-robed man could not move. His face became extremely pale, and his eyes revealed a look of fear. He perked up his ears. Although he had lost his power, and this secret room was deep underground, he seemed to hear the sounds of wild cats outside. Zhao Rong Princess seemed to hear it as well. She shook her head and said strangely, I think I heard the sound of cats. Could it be that this catnip powder is effective again? Right, this secret room is hidden underground. Cats can't get in. Whether this powder is effective or not, I will take you out and you will know." She grabbed the red-robed man's shirt and lifted him up effortlessly. She walked out of the secret room. "Your Highness, don't go out. Don't go out. You will kill me. The red-robed man's face was ashen as he shouted, I promise you. I promise you that I will disguise as a woman. I promise you, I will disguise as a woman right now. Your Highness, put me down, put me down. Zhao Rong Junzhu pursed her lips. You used fake medicine to deceive me. Did you think that by pretending to be a woman, you would be able to appease my anger? Didn't you say you weren't lying? Didn't you say that this catnip powder was real? Zhao Rong Princess. All right, prove it to me. If it really attracts stray cats, then I'll believe you. Princess, this catnip is, and the catnip powder is as powder is powder, believe me, if I lied to you, I'll be struck by lightning from the heavens. Your Highness, please don't go out, don't. The red-robed young master shouted in panic. You are a man, and you are afraid of a stray cat. Shut up for me. You're making a lot of noise. You're a man, and you're afraid of a stray cat? Shut up. You're so noisy. Chapter 1502. The red-robed young master's eyes were filled with fear. His mouth opened and closed like a struggling fish. Unfortunately, he could not utter a single word. Zhao Rong Junzhu brought him out of the secret chamber and into her own room. She threw him on the floor and clapped her hands. Okay, I will leave you here. I will come and see you in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. If you really attract stray cats, then I will believe that you did not lie to me. But if you cannot attract stray cats, then I will not only ask you to disguise as a woman, but I will also turn you into a woman. She glared at the red-robed young master threateningly. However, the red-robed young master did not even look at her. He did not hear a single word of her threat. At this moment, his heart was filled with satisfaction and fear. Outside the window, the sound of stray cats began to rise and fall. The red-robed young master groaned inwardly. He thought to himself, so many stray cats have already smelled me. Why would I need the time it takes for an incense stick to burn? I cannot move. I am afraid that within the time it takes to drink half a cup of tea, these stray cats will tear me to pieces and eat me clean. Thinking about the scene of being cut open and eaten by the stray cats, even the red-robed young master, who killed without blinking an eye, could not help but tremble. He could not speak. He could only stare at Zhao Rong Junzhu with a pleading look in his eyes. He wanted her to take him away. Zhao Rong Junzhu did not pay attention to him. She had also heard the stray cats outside the window and could not help but talk to herself. There is indeed the sound of cats. However, whether this powder is effective or not, I will have to see it with my own eyes. Okay, you will stay here for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. I will unseal your acupuncture point. Let me see how the famous assassin of the Purple Cloud Pavilion will deal with these stray cats. She slightly curled her lips, revealing an evil smile. She unsealed the acupuncture point of the red-robed young master and then entered the secret door. With a creaking sound, the secret door closed. The room was pitch black. Only the red-robed young master's terrified breathing could be heard in the darkness. Other than fear, there was still fear. Although his acupuncture point was unsealed and he could move, fear made him lose the ability to move. Outside the window, through the paper, countless black shadows suddenly appeared. There were also pairs of evil eyes staring at him in the darkness, making him shudder. Bastard! Damn it! Zhao Rong, if you let this prince feed wild cats, after this prince dies, I definitely won't let you go. I will turn into a wild cat, peck out your eyes, and use my claws to crush your face. I will let you die a horrible death. The red-robed gentleman was terrified to the extreme. He cursed angrily and viciously in his heart, but Zhao Rong Junzhu could not hear him. Rip! Suddenly, the thin window paper was torn by the sharp claws of a stray cat. A stray cat lightly jumped in, almost making no sound. Chila! 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 The paper window was vulnerable to the sharp claws of the wildcats, and was torn into pieces one after another. Another cat jumped in, then a third, a fourth, there were more and more stray cats in the room. The red-clothed young master could not tell how many stray cats were surrounding him. All he could see was the ghostly green eyes of the cats flashing around him. They were everywhere, and he could not count them all. Chapter 1503. Not to mention that he had lost his internal energy, so he had no way of fighting against the wild cats. Before long, he would be torn to pieces by these hungry wild cats. Aowu. Suddenly, a wild cat was stimulated by the scent of the catnip and thorn mustard grass on the red-clothed young master's body to the point of losing its mind. It jumped into the air and charged at him, its sharp claws landing on his shoulder. He felt a heart-wrenching pain, and dark red blood immediately flowed out, dyeing his red clothes red. The sweet smell of blood made the smell on his body even stronger. When the wildcats smelled this smell, they all went crazy. They gave out pitiful cries as they charged at the red-clothed young master, reaching out their sharp claws at him. The red-clothed young master desperately dodged, waving his arms and legs, but he could not avoid the fierce attacks of the wildcats at all. The clothes on his body were quickly torn to shreds by the claws of the wildcats. There were many wounds on his body as blood flowed out. "Save me! Save me!" The red-clothed young master screamed out. He dodged the attacks of the wildcats while using his arms to protect his eyes. He knew that the wildcats liked to use their claws to dig out a person's eyes and then swallow them in one gulp. Then they would tear apart a person's flesh. As long as he could protect his eyes, he would be able to stall for a bit longer. But even like this, his life was in danger. The Zhaorong princess was hiding behind the secret door, so she could clearly hear what was happening outside. When she heard the pitiful cries of the cats and the heart-wrenching cries for help from the red-clothed young master, even she could not help trembling. It seems like the thousand-faced young master did not lie to me. This catnip and thorn mustard grass really are useful. Her eyes flashed with a cruel and excited glow. It was as if the person crying for help outside was not the red-clothed young master, but rather the person she hated the most, Chen Ning. She was really looking forward to seeing this scene. The scene of Chen Ning being torn to pieces by these ferocious wildcats. That moment would be very interesting, very interesting. No, she could not let the thousand-faced young master die like this. Keeping him alive, he would definitely be useful. The Zhaorong princess mind raced. She pushed open the secret door and flew out. Her long whip flew out, and with a schwa sound, it hit a wildcat. The wildcat's claws were already about to grab the red-clothed young master's eyes. The red-clothed young master was completely disheartened and closed his eyes to wait for death. But before he could feel any pain from his eyes, he heard a pitiful cat cry. The wild cat that had been whipped by the Zhaorong princess fell to the ground with its internal organs ruptured. The rest of the wildcats did not retreat in the slightest because of the death of their companion. They pounced on the red-clothed gentleman even more ferociously. They were not willing to give up the food that was right in front of their mouths. Every one of them became crazed. The Zhaorong princess waved her whip. "Shua! Aowu! Ao!" The screams of the wildcats came one after another. As long as a cat was whipped, it would immediately fall to the ground and die. The Zhaorong princess was gasping for breath as she was gasping for breath. Zhaorong Junju was also so tired that she was panting heavily. Her back was already drenched in sweat. "Your Highness, thank you for saving me." The red-clothed young master had just escaped from death. His voice had become hoarse, no longer having his deep and beautiful voice. The Zhaorong princess took a deep breath, but before she could say anything, her face suddenly changed. She could hear the pitiful cries of the cats coming from outside the window. Chapter 1504. Damn it! Why is this catnip so powerful? Are there no more stray cats? Zhaorong region princess waved her whip and hit a stray cat that had just jumped in through the window. However, more and more stray cats kept jumping in through the window. Countless green cat eyes flashed with the light of wolves in the darkness. Regent Princess, I told you before that catnip is very powerful. Now that you have seen it with your own eyes, do you believe me? The man in red smiled bitterly. The wound on his shoulder that was scratched by the cat was still bleeding profusely. The smell of blood mixed with the smell of catnip. It would not be long before all the stray cats in the city would be attracted by the smell. But I clearly smelled the scent of catnip on that little bee asterisk TCH and saw her drink the powder of thorn mustard grass. Why didn't I see a single cat? Zhao Rong Regent Princess asked in confusion as she waved her whip to kill the cats. The red-robed gentleman also did not understand the reason. He saw that more and more cats were coming in through the window, and that the whip in Zhao Rong Regent Princess' hand was becoming weaker and weaker. He hurriedly said, "Regent Princess, now is not the time to talk about this. Let's go into the secret room and hide. You can't kill all these cats. There will only be more and more." Zhao Rong Regent Princess had already felt her arm go limp and was worried. After being reminded by him, her eyes brightened. "Yes, let's go into the secret room. Why didn't I think of that?" She bent down to grab the red-robed gentleman's clothes. She didn't know that she would grab nothing but a piece of smooth skin. She froze. She lowered her head to look, and her face immediately turned red. She quickly turned around and shouted in embarrassment and anger. You are so shameless. You are not wearing any clothes." The red-robed gentleman felt wronged and thought, "How am I shameless? It was you who caused my clothes to be torn by these stray cats. You saw my body, and the one who suffered was me." But he did not dare to talk back to Zhao Rong Regent Princess. He could only carefully say, Yes. It is all my fault. I'm shameless. Regent Princess, grab my hair and drag me in." Zhao Rong Regent Princess thought this was a good idea. She grabbed his hair and dragged him into the secret room like a dead dog. She closed the door to the secret room and blocked out all the stray cats. Outside the door, the stray cats continued to scream. Countless claws scratched at the secret door, making an ear-piercing sound. "Do you think these D***MN cats will break the door?" Zhao Rong Regent Princess asked anxiously as she listened to the sound of the cats scratching at the door. "Let's hurry up and go to the secret chamber below. This door cannot block out the scent on my body. If the wild cats continue to scratch me, this door will not be able to stop them," the red-clothed young man said. Zhao Rong Regent Princess could not help but shiver and drag the red-robed gentleman into the underground secret room. When the two of them entered the secret chamber and closed the iron door, it was as if they could still hear the cat meowing outside. Zhao Rong Juanju's face was pale. She felt that the most terrifying sound she had ever heard in her life was the sound of cats meowing. She had never thought that wild cats could become so crazy and frightening. But this was enough to prove one thing. The thousand-faced gentleman was sincerely helping her and did not give her fake medicine to fool her. Therefore, he still had great value. Chapter 1505. Princess, now that you have seen it with your own eyes, do you believe that I did not lie to you? The red-robed gentleman was finally out of danger. Thinking about how he had almost been cut open by the wild cats, he shuddered. However, his expression was much calmer than Zhao Rong Princess. The clothes on his body had been torn to shreds by the wild cats. His clothes did not cover his body. There were countless scratches on his body from the cats. The large amount of blood made his face even whiter. "You did not lie to me. This catnip is really powerful." Zhao Rong Princess nodded her head. The danger just now was more shocking than all the dangers she had encountered in her life combined. "Princess, do you have Jinchuang medicine?" The red-robed gentleman tried his best to crawl up and walk shakily to the bed on the side. He pulled down half of the bed curtain and wrapped it around his body. Only then did he avoid exposing his body in front of Zhao Rong Princess. Zhao Rong Princess shook her head and said, "The Jinchuang medicine is in my room up there, but that room is full of wild cats." Even if she was given 100 guts, she did not want to face that pack of hungry wolves. It was scarier than a nightmare. The red-robed gentleman saw her expression and knew she was afraid. He couldn't help but despise her in his heart, but he did not show it on his face. As long as Princess believes me, it is fine. Once I recover, I will help you think of a way to deal with the people you want to deal with. Princess, you have seen the methods of my purple cloud pavilion. Do not worry. Zhao Rong Princess rolled her eyes and extended her hand to him. Give me some catnip and bramblegrass. The red-robed gentleman smiled bitterly. I do not have anything on me right now. Everything on me was destroyed by that girl named Shun in the palace. How could I have any medicinal powder? Before he finished speaking, he saw Zhao Rong Princess's expression change. He quickly said, but I personally refined the catnip and bramblegrass. Once I recover, I can immediately prepare some for Princess. That is more like it. If you cannot take out what I want, don't blame me for being merciless. Zhao Rong Princess waved the whip that was covered in cat blood at him. I do not dare. Princess, I will remember your kindness in saving my life. How can 1 or 2 packets of medicinal powder be enough to repay you? Princess, I will do my best to help you deal with that girl named Shen. I will torture her until she begs for death. The red-robed gentleman's lips curled up, and he smiled darkly. Zhao Rong Princess heard this and felt unspeakably comfortable. She rolled her eyes and said, Fine, you said it. I didn't force you. Now, turn yourself into a woman. I want to see what you look like after you become a woman. The young man in red was stunned. He could not believe his ears. He stammered, Princess, why do you want me to become a woman? What? You are not willing. You just said that you would do your best to help me. Do you want to go back on your word? Zhao Rong Juanju's face darkened. The red-robed young master smiled bitterly and said, I don't want to go back on my word, but I don't understand why the princess wants me to become a woman. Could it be that you want to send me to the palace? Chapter 1506. The man in red looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire person was stunned, and his mouth was wide open. What did you say? Send me into the palace? You want me to be a eunuch? He was tongue-tied and stuttered. He felt as if a flock of crows were flying over his head. His entire person became unwell. He had a long face. If he had known that he would become a eunuch that was neither a man nor a woman, he might as well have been eaten by a stray cat. What eunuch? I want you to become a woman. Zhao Rong Regent Princess rolled her eyes at him. She grabbed his hair and pulled him to the side of the table. She urged, quick, what? The man in red was still confused and could not react at all. Become a woman. Zhao Rong Regent Princess said impatiently. Don't tell me you can't do it. Who doesn't know that you, the Thousand Faces Prince, are the best at disguising? I want you to turn yourself into the most beautiful woman, the kind that all men can't take their eyes off of. The man in red's face was uglier than a bitter gourd. You? If you can't do it, I will throw you up there to feed the stray cats. The man in red thought of the sharp claws of the stray cats and shuddered. Okay. I will change, but I have never disguised myself as a woman before. I am afraid I won't look like one. You will look like one. Even without makeup, you are no different from a woman. Quick. I am not very patient. If you don't do it, I will feed you to the cats. The man in red had no choice but to look in the mirror and begin to disguise himself. Zhao Rong Regent Princess sat to the side with her chin resting on her hand. She watched him pick up makeup and apply it layer by layer on his face. She watched with great interest. TSK, look at your delicate face. It really makes me feel sorry for you. Luckily, you protected your face and did not get scratched by the cat's claws. Otherwise, it would have ruined my plan. The man in red's hand trembled uncontrollably. He looked up at Zhao Rong Regent Princess and expressionlessly said, Thank you for the compliment, Regent Princess. Don't stop. Continue. Zhao Rong Regent Princess smiled. The man in red was so angry he wanted to vomit blood. But he still had to follow her orders and turn himself into a beautiful woman. His original appearance was extremely enchanting and charming, so he didn't need to disguise himself too much. He just twisted his eyebrows into thin lines and drew them into the shape of distant mountain eyebrows. When he frowned slightly, it was as if he was surrounded by smoke and mist, adding some charm to his appearance. His face was pale to begin with, so he didn't need to apply any more makeup. Instead, he applied a thin layer of rouge on his cheeks, making his skin look rosy and tender. His lips were slightly smeared with rouge, making them look delicate and thin. When he looked at himself in the mirror, he almost couldn't recognize himself in it. Zhao Rong Regent Princess was also stunned. She stared at the man in red who had turned into a completely different person. If she had not seen him disguise himself, she would have thought that there was another beautiful girl in the world, especially those two eyebrows that seemed to be frowning, as well as that pair of alluring phoenix eyes. The corners of his eyes were slightly raised, and his gaze was like flowing water. He didn't even need to speak. Just a glance from the corner of his eyes was enough to make all the men in the world fall head over heels for him. Chapter 1507. Zhao Rong Princess praise came from the bottom of her heart, but it was like a whip that slapped the red-robed young master's face. He gritted his teeth and held his breath as he said, "Your Highness, are you satisfied with my disguise?" He moved his eyes away from the mirror and did not want to look at the enchanting and charming woman in the mirror. He was afraid that if he looked, he would vomit. "Satisfied, satisfied, I am very satisfied." Zhao Rong Princess smiled until her eyes were curved and she could not close her mouth. The more she looked at the beautiful face of the red-robed young master, the happier she was. "Why don't you give me a flirtatious look?" She suddenly had an idea. "Well, what? Flirtatious look?" The red-robed young master suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. "Yes, you want to seduce my cousin the emperor. If you do not know how to flirtatious look, how can you move my cousin's heart? I think that little b asterisk tch's appearance is very normal. It's just that her eyes are like a fox spirit. My cousin must have been enchanted by her fox-like eyes. I think your eyes are even more fox-like than hers. If you flirtatious look at my cousin will definitely fall for you," Zhao Rong Junju said confidently. The red-robed young master did not know whether to laugh or cry. "But I am a man. I don't know how to flirtatious look." "What's so hard about flirtatious looks? Just do this." Zhao Rong Princess personally demonstrated and winked at the red-robed young master a few times. She asked, "Have you learned it?" The red-robed young master felt goosebumps all over his body from her flirtatious looks. He shook his head. "It's too hard. I really cannot learn it." He would rather die than make such a strange gesture like Zhao Rong Princess. "You can't learn it? Okay, I think I want to go up and feed the cat." Zhao Rong Princess rolled her eyes and laughed coldly. "Okay, I will learn, I will learn." When the red-robed young master heard the word cat, the scratches on his body began to hurt. He suppressed his disgust and copied what Zhao Rong Princess had done and blinked a few times. Zhao Rong Junju was dumbfounded. The red-robed young master's eyes were already very beautiful. They were watery and pitiful. A few flirtatious glances seemed to be able to speak, seducing people's souls. "Great, too beautiful." Zhao Rong Princess could not help but clap her hands in praise. "Thousand faces, young master. Even though I am a woman, I was almost moved by your eyes. If my cousin the emperor saw you, he would be mesmerized to death." The red-clothed young master gritted his teeth in hatred, but he had no choice but to feign civility with Princess Zhao Rong. He lowered his eyelids and said, "Princess, does Princess Zhao Rong mean to have me fight for favor with your cousin the emperor, attract his attention, and then have him ignore that girl with the surname Chun?" Chapter 1508. The Zhao Rong Princess's hatred for Chun Ning was like a giant wave that could not be stopped. Her words filled with hatred were heard by the red-clothed young master. He also had a similar hatred for Chun Ning. Originally, he was very unwilling when the Zhao Rong Princess asked him to dress up as a girl, but now his heart moved. He suddenly thought, "It said that a girl's heart is even more vicious than a man's, It seems like this is true. The Zhaorong princess's idea is very good. If we let that girl surnamed Qin die, it will be too easy on her. She is now the high and mighty empress, so he will pull her down from the empress throne. Not only will she lose the honor of the empress, she will also lose the heart of the man she loves. To a woman, this is even more terrifying than death. Very good. Your Highness's idea is really brilliant. Let's just make a decision like this. After the red-clothed young master disguised himself as a girl, his face revealed a smile for the first time. As he gently smiled, his eyes sparkled, almost making the Zhaorong princess' eyes pop out. The Zhaorong princess was worried that he would be unwilling, but when she heard this, she was filled with joy. All right, since you're willing to help me, then we'll have a good plan. That's right, if you dress up as a girl, although you look similar, when you open your mouth, it will be a man's voice. What should we do? How about you pretend to be a mute? Mute? This idea wasn't bad. The red-clothed young master nodded. All right, I'll pretend to be a mute and not say a single word. This way, there won't be any flaws, right? The Zhaorong princess looked at him a few more times. Also, the way you sit isn't like a girl. The way a girl from a noble family sits is like this. Straighten your back, slightly droop your head, and put your hands on your right knee, gently pressing it down without using any force. Your legs are slanted together, and your toes are on the ground. This will make your body look more slender. She personally demonstrated, teaching the red-clothed young master everything from the way he sat to the way he acted. The red-clothed young master was very smart, immediately learning everything. He firmly remembered the Zhaorong princess words in his heart. He followed the Zhaorong princess steps. He had lost his internal energy, and his body was weak from the blood loss, so his steps were weak. However, it made him look even more graceful and charming. Very good. Now, even I can't see that the beauty in front of me is a man. The Zhaorong princess was more satisfied the more she looked at him. Her lips curled up and her eyes sparkled. The corner of the red-robed young master's lips curled up. He turned his gaze and looked at himself in the mirror. The face in the mirror could be said to be a heavenly beauty, a beauty that could cause the downfall of cities and empires. Especially the bitterness in his eyes. Even he himself was mesmerized by it. If a man could not be tempted by such a beauty, then he really could not be called a man. Oh, I forgot something important. Since I'm going to send you into the palace, you have to have a name. Young Master Thousand Faces, what is your name? Zhaorong Junju suddenly slapped her forehead, remembering this important matter. The red-clothed young master's mouth twitched. He lightly said, "My name is not important. Does the princess plan on using my real name?" Of course not. The Zhaorong princess didn't even think before saying, "All right, if that's the case, then I'll give you a name." Chapter 1509. Lian Lian? The man in red shuddered. His entire body was covered in goosebumps. He forcefully shook himself, and with a determined expression, he said, "No, that's too disgusting." Zhaorong princess said, "I think this name sounds good. Let's call her Lian Lian." The man in red's face was so red it looked like blood was about to drip out. After holding it in for a long time, he finally said, I would rather die than comply." Zhaorong princess glared at him and suddenly held her stomach in laughter. She did not think that this devil-like man with 1,000 faces would be defeated one day. She laughed so hard that she could not stand up straight. Okay. If you don't like this name, then it won't be Lian Lian." The man in red let out a sigh. He was afraid that Zhaorong princess would randomly give him a name that would give him goosebumps. He hurriedly said, "My nickname is the man with 1,000 faces. Why don't I use the first character, Qian Qian?" Qian Qian? That sounds good. Delicate and weak. It suits you well when you dress up as a woman. Okay, then I will call you Qian Qian from now on. The man in red silently ground his teeth. "Qian Qian," Zhaorong princess suddenly shouted. The man in red froze for a long time before he realized that she was calling him. His face revealed an awkward expression. He huffed and said, "Is there something else, princess?" Zhao Rong princess giggled and said, "Nothing. I just want to call you, so you can get used to this name." Oomph. The man in red was both embarrassed and angry. He did not dare to explode and could only huff. Zhao Rong princess laughed and laughed. Then, the smile on her face slowly disappeared. She looked at the charming face of the man in red and suddenly felt her heart ache. If she looked like him, would her cousin, the emperor, like her? Would he leave the little b asterisk tch and come to her side? Suddenly, she raised her hand and gave the man in red a heavy slap. The man in red was stunned. He covered his face and shouted, "Princess, why did you hit me? It's all because you were born with a bad face. Why did you have to be born with a pair of fox-like eyes? Why did you have to be born with a face that makes men lose their souls for you? It's all your fault, your fault." It was as if the man in red's face was not the face of the man in red, but rather Chun Ning's beautiful face. Her face twisted and her heart filled with hatred. She slapped the man in red's face again and again. The man in red had never been slapped in the face like this before. He was filled with pain and hatred as he clenched his fists. He secretly thought that he would repay this humiliation 100 times or 1,000 times in the future. His gaze landed on Zhao Rong Junju's face, and he couldn't help but be stunned. He saw that Zhao Rong Junju seemed to have gone crazy, but her eyes revealed an extremely miserable expression. It was clear that she was in an unspeakable pain. So the pain in her heart was 1,000 times worse than the pain on my face. This idiot princess was really pitiful. She couldn't get the man she loved, so she wanted to ruin his woman. Humph, what a useless thing. If it were this young master, as long as I fancy a girl, regardless of whether she has another man in her heart, I would directly kidnap her. How could he be like this idiot princess who was useless except for finding someone else to vent her anger on? His heart was filled with disdain towards Zhao Rong Junju, but the slap that Zhao Rong Junju had given him was truly painful. Chapter 1510. Qianqian. The Zhao Rong princess stopped and recovered from her crazy imagination. She looked over and saw that the person in front of her was not Chen Ning, but rather the red, clothed young master who was bleeding from the corner of his mouth. She suddenly felt guilty. "Qianqian, your face. How did it become like this? Just a moment ago, he was a peerless beauty. In just a blink of an eye, he had turned into a swollen pig head. With this appearance, how could he be sent into the palace to see his cousin? He was afraid that once his cousin saw him, he would chase him out without a second word. The red-clothed young master's cheeks were swollen, and his peach blossom eyes were now swollen into slits. He used the back of his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. In a resentful voice, he said, "Has the princess finished venting her anger? If it has, then please bring some medicine for this one. Once this one's face is less swollen, then I can enter the palace to fulfill the princess' wish." "You are still willing to enter the palace to do things for me?" The Zhaorong princess was filled with joy when she heard this. She was worried that the other side would hold a grudge from her beating and would never agree to let her enter the palace again. She never thought that the other side would not blame her. "The words that I, the thousand-faced young master, say are like water that has been spilled. I will keep my word. Not to mention that the princess hates that girl surnamed Chun, but I also hate her. If I can really steal the emperor's heart and make her fall out of favor, it will not only be for the princess, it will also be for myself. This is just a little bit of selfishness. I hope the princess won't mind." The red-clothed young master originally hated the Zhao Rong princess for forcing him to disguise as a woman, but the more he thought about it, the more interesting this plan became. He was a bit impatient to enter the palace. He would definitely make that girl, surnamed Chun, restless. Thinking about it, his heart began to fill with an inexplicable excitement, and he was itching to try it out. "I don't mind, of course this princess doesn't mind. My master said that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Since this princess and the thousand-faced young master have a common enemy, then we are friends, right? Of course. This one has always treated the princess as a friend, but the princess has always looked down on this one and is not willing to be friends with this one. The princess' face turned red and said, "You are the famous Purple Cloud Pavilion's thousand-faced young master. How could this princess dare be friends with you?" Her words were not sincere. The red-clothed young master was right. He was just an assassin from a Jianghu, and she was a princess with a high status. She was afraid of him, and she looked down on him from the bottom of her heart. Be friends? She did not even think about it. The thousand-faced gentleman had seen countless people. How could Zhao Rong princess's thoughts be hidden from his eyes? However, he did not expose her. Instead, he smiled and said, "Since Princess thinks highly of me, then from now on, we are friends who stand on the same line. Even if I did not accept Princess's request, I will still do my best to help Princess vent your anger." Okay, then it's a deal. Zhao Rong princess beamed with joy. "Since the princess has already treated this one as a friend, then you should give me the antidote for the muscle-softening powder, right?" The red-clothed young master said lightly. He leaned back in the chair and looked weak and weak. Chapter 15:11. The reason he didn't have any strength was because after Zhao Rong princess saved him, she gave him a kind of muscle-softening powder that made him unable to use his strength. Muscle-softening powder? Zhao Rong princess's face turned red again. She hesitated for a bit before saying, "I left the antidote in the room. Once the wildcats are gone, I'll take it out for you." When the informant she placed in Guan Osprey Palace rescued the red-clothed young master, he didn't know he had taken a bone-transforming pill. That was why she took advantage of the time when the red-clothed young master was unconscious to give him another dose of muscle-softening powder. This muscle-softening powder wasn't as effective as the bone-transforming pill. Its main effect was to make a person's muscles and bones feel weak and weak. This one believes that the princess is someone who keeps her word. The princess should also believe this one. This one wants to work for you, so I need some strength. Zhao Rong princess nodded. When will those wild cats leave? When she thought about how her room had become a cat's nest, her heart felt numb and her entire body felt uncomfortable. When the sun rises, they will all leave. The princess doesn't need to worry. All right, then when the sun rises, I'll go get the antidote for you. The red-clothed young master made a sound of on. He leaned back in his chair and lazily said, "Now that things have reached this point, I can only trouble the princess to stay here for the night. I'll cultivate here, don't disturb me." Zhao Rong princess sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. The red-clothed young master silently looked at her for a while before looking away in disinterest. He closed his eyes and began to imagine what would happen after he entered the palace. Of course, he wanted to take revenge on Chen Ning, but there was more than one way. Stealing the heart of the man she loved was just one of them. Other than that, he had prepared many new and interesting ways to play with her. The most hateful thing was that he had lost his power. If he still had his power, he wouldn't need to spend so much effort. He would directly capture that damned girl and lock her up in Purple Heaven Pavilion's dungeon. He would use all the punishments that Purple Heaven Pavilion used to punish traitors on her body. That feeling would definitely be unforgettable for the rest of her life. Chen Ning, Chen Ning. He silently repeated these two words in his heart. The corners of his lips slowly curled up, revealing a meaningful smile. "Wait for me. I'll have some fun with you very soon." At this time, Chen Ning had already returned to the palace. She had promised Mo Chuan that she would come back before the sky turned dark. But when she entered Guan Osprey Palace, she found that the person who had not returned was not her, but Mo Chuan. She knew that it must be because there were too many things piled up in this period of time. Mo Chuan should be in the royal study reading documents, and adding the matter of Chu Xiaoyang. He must be very busy, right? Xiaoru, let's go. Follow me into the kitchen of the kitchen. Xiaoru, what good things you want to make this time? When Xiaoru heard the word dessert, her eyes lit up. She could clearly remember that the desserts the young miss made were all delicious things she had never tasted before. Xiaoru, I don't ui xiao, I of you of I shout. Chapter 15:12. The other dessert was walnut layer pastry. It was crispy, fragrant, sweet, and soft with a single bite. When Xiao Ru took the first bite, she almost swallowed her tongue. "Young miss, this is simply too delicious. The Emperor will definitely love it." She wolfed down a piece and licked her fingers, wishing she could eat more. Chen Ning giggled. "Don't praise me. There's still a plate left for you. Slowly eat it, but don't swallow your tongue." She placed a plate of walnut layer pastry and steamed buns into the food box and walked out. "Young miss, are you going to send the dessert to the Emperor?" Xiao Ru's mouth was stuffed with the pastry as she spoke in a slurred voice. "This servant will go with you." "No need, you can stay here and slowly eat. I'll go by myself." "Could it be that in this palace, you're afraid that I'll grow wings and fly away?" She smiled as she walked out and headed for the royal study. Who would have thought that when she arrived at the royal study, she would find nothing? Not only did she not see Mo Chuan, Xiao Si was also not there. She asked the guards at the door of the royal study, and they said that Mo Chuan had left at noon and had not returned. Strange, Mo Chuan was not in the royal study. Where'd he go? Chen Ning held the food box and slowly walked towards the Guanyu Palace. The sky had already darkened at this time, and the palace was already lit up. There was light in the palace as she walked alone. Although Mo Chuan was not in the palace, there were guards protecting her, so she was not worried about her safety at all. She was only thinking about Mo Chuan. Returning to the Guanyu Palace, she still did not see Mo Chuan. Xiao Ru came out to greet her. Seeing the food box in her hands, she said in a curious voice, "Young miss, didn't you go to send food to the Emperor? Does the Emperor not like it?" Chen Ning shook her head and gave the food box to Xiao Ru. "If this food gets cold, it won't taste good. If you can still eat it, then eat it all." Xiao Ru was filled with joy as she took the food box and said, "Many thanks, young miss." She happily carried the food box back to her room to enjoy the dessert. Chen Ning looked at her back, and her lips couldn't help curling into a smile. It was good to be this carefree like Xiao Ru. As long as there was delicious dessert to eat, she would be happy. She was not like Mo Chuan, who always had so many matters to take care of and so many things to worry about. She returned to her room and picked up a book to sit under the lamp, reading while waiting for Mo Chuan to come back. In 2 days, she would follow Gu Qingze to the Miracle Physician Valley, so she especially cherished the time she had with Mo Chuan. She hoped that she could wait until Mo Chuan came back. Even if she didn't say anything, just seeing him was enough. But things did not go as she wished. She held the book and only read a few pages before unconsciously falling asleep on the table. Bye. What she didn't notice was that the incense burner in the corner of the room was emitting a faint fragrance. Waiting until she fell asleep, Xiao Ru quietly opened the door and walked in. Seeing Chen Ning lying on the table, a gentle look flashed on her face. She took a thin blanket and covered Chen Ning with it. Then she walked over to the incense burner in the corner and extinguished the incense before quietly leaving. The incense in the incense burner was specially given to her by Mo Chuan. It had the effect of helping her sleep. Mo Chuan had already expected that Chen Ning would wait for him, so he thought of this method. Chapter 15:13. That familiar aura faintly came over, and she was suddenly awakened from her dream. It was Mo Chuan. Opening his eyes, what he saw was Mo Chuan's high-nosed bridge and that pair of bottomless eyes. "Mo Chuan, you're finally back." She muttered and asked, "What time is it now?" Mo Chuan stroked her hair and said with a faint smile, "It's almost dawn. Where did you go, and why did you come back so late?" "You haven't slept all night, right?" Chen Ning calmed herself down and found that Mo Chuan was covered in dust, like he had run a long way. There was still the smell of night dew on his body. "On my body is dirty, so don't touch it. I'll come back after taking a bath." Mo Chuan pressed her down on the bed and covered her with a blanket. Then he turned around and left, entering the bathroom on the side. When he appeared in front of her again, he had already showered and was wearing a snow-white cocoon silk undergarment. His pitch-black hair was still wet, and his clean face made him look even more handsome and outstanding. Ning picked up a dry towel to help him dry his hair while asking, "Did you run a long way? Where did you go?" Chuan sat by the bed and looked at her. His eyes were gentle, but he couldn't hide the worry in them. He hesitated for a bit before holding her hand and calling out, "Ning, Un?" She stopped and silently looked at him. "I want to tell you something. After you know it, don't be surprised. Say it." Chu Xiaoyang. He betrayed the country. Chuan grinded his teeth and finally said it. Chen Ning's body slightly trembled. It was like she had already expected this, and her face did not reveal a surprised expression. "You're saying he betrayed West Chu? But where did he go?" "I only received the news this afternoon. After he stole the map from the royal study, he didn't stop at all and left the capital city. No wonder I locked down the entire city to search for him, but I couldn't find anything. He had already planned this and left the city before the news spread. He went south, and the news I received was that he had already left the West Chu border. If I'm not wrong, his destination should be Southview." Chuan firmly spat out these two words. "Southview?" Chen Ning knit her brows. "Why would he go to Southview?" Chuan, "Why are you so sure he went to Southview?" Chuan said, "About 1,000 miles south of the capital city, there is a Tsangqiong mountain. This Tsangqiong mountain is like its name. It is as majestic as the sky, as if it fell from the sky. The mountain is steep and the peak is very high. It is said that even eagles can't fly over it. This mountain covers an area of more than 1,000 miles. Behind Tsangqiong mountain is not the border of my West Chu, but rather a vast and boundless forest. After passing through that forest is the country of Southview. So this road could be said to be the closest route from West Chu to Southview." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.